Hi, everybody.
Hello.
We made it. It's a stream, and we're here. Who's us, though?
I'm KngRichard. Some of you might know me from the past. Used to play a lot of competitive. Recent updates, I've come back and played like a shit ton.
Yeah, like a
And
lot.
and since I live pretty close, they asked me come on the stream with SlowWolf and talk about the game. So I'm here. It's super
And
great.
yeah, and he's here with me, whom you guys, some of you know at least. I'm SlowWolf, in case if you're new to the stream, and I'm here with Richard, who happens to be, as far as I'm concerned, one of the greater minds when it comes to the competitive scene, which is what we're talking about today. Now, this is not the first time that we've sat together on a
No, not the
competitive
first
thing.
time.
So, when was the first time that we ended up doing that kind of thing? It was,
Like last year, we did the first look event, which was an event in the Netherlands, where yeah,
yeah,
two teams played versus each other.
it was Edster's team at the time, and then Slaughter High's team as well,
Yep,
I think.
yep.
That was a really good match, though, and we ended up casting it live, which is great.
And there were about 800 people there, I think, something like that.
Yeah.
A shit ton of
Without
people.
meaning to brag, we got more cheering than Hots did, so I feel pretty good about that. But yeah, we're here specifically to talk about the competitive scene and how it works, and some things that you might want to keep in mind. So for those of you that are watching this that are like, how do I get into the competitive scene? Well, that's what we're doing today. That's what we're trying to do anyway. With that said, we actually wanted to go over the match of the day today a little bit, didn't we?
Yep.
So the match of the day today was in between a number of different people that we know the names of, but in particular, one name popped up to me.
Yeah, Yubi.
Yeah, Ubi. Ubi's been on a competitive team before. Like he's
Really
actually
good.
won a tournament, or at least he's got at least one lens flare cat like just kind of sitting there, on his profile someplace. But as far as the match goes, there's a lot of good high level play in there, wasn't there?
Yeah, it is. It's a really equal game. Mistakes on both sides as well, and that makes it like they both do a lot of good things, and they both make mistakes, but they also both capitalize on each other's mistakes. So that way, the game goes quick.
So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be taking a look at the match.
Yeah.
And Robin was the idea. Who, by the way, Robin's behind the controls. So if you're wondering who Ronimo Games is, it's Ronimo. It's Robin. So say hi, Robin.
Hello.
There we go.
Hello.
We should have done that from the beginning. I feel bad. But what we're going to be doing, I think, is we're going to be watching the match in some way, shape, or form, checking it out, and then going over the important bits, some of the highlights of the match. Afterwards, talk about some of the important things that have to do with slight changes to how you are supposed to play the game if you decide to play at a higher level, like League 3, 2, and then 1 especially. People in League 1 definitely keep a lot of the things that we're going to talk about later in mind.
Yeah.
Now, with that said,
Should I go start the game?
yeah, I think that starting the game up would be a good move at this point. Now, as we mentioned before, this is a pretty high-level match. And that's the great thing about the match of the day is that it tends to be, at the very least, a very close match. But the closest matches also tend to be pretty high level. So, we're not exactly lacking for good content there. If you're wondering how high-level play looks like, every single day there's a new match up there to take a look at. So, please, if you want to learn how to play, that's an easy way to do it. Now, to start things off, on the red team, we've got a Jimmy, a Ted, and a Lone Star. On the blue team, we got a Leon, a Rocco, and a Durple. These two teams are interesting, and I remember that when we talked about this match a little bit earlier today, Richard, you were talking about how there's some synergies between the two things. And wow, really good play by Ubi there, dropping down with the turret mode while nuking at the same time.
Yeah, there you can really see like downwards momentum. It's really hard to move to the left and right, but downwards momentum you get gravity for free. Here you see you'll be falling down again, and Durple in siege mode can't move very fast, but if he uses the siege and drops down, he can go very fast as well.
And certain characters are really good for that and need it even. Clunk and Skoldir also come to mind. If Skoldir's up high, being able to drop down with his Earthquake ability or just with his... Well, he's big, he's heavy, he drops down pretty fast. Being able to initiate on people using the throw that way is a really good play. And keeping that vertical advantage, that ability to use the way to go down very fast is important. Not every knot does that very well, though. Like, Vinny is terrible at going down very quickly.
Yeah, one of the few, but he's really good at staying up though, so he doesn't get dropped on very easily too.
Now, you can see that Ubi is currently, like, still, he's going up high and trying to, like, turn it into siege mode while in midair. Like, right there, lands
right
a
there.
fantastic
Wait,
nuke, takes out the Lone Star, no
I'm
problem.
gonna back it a little.
Yeah, and then, like...
And look at Ubi.
Yeah, so Ubi's, like, way up high. He's got his options. He turns into siege mode after having moved forward, so momentum carries it forward. He's able to pick off the Lone Star, and he's still in a good enough position that he can do some reasonable work to the TED as well. Rado ended up helping him by coming down and helping out his teammate. That's another important thing about high-level play is that they pay attention to where the other person is, and they do try to, help out whenever possible. That was a good time.
You can just look at the minimap while playing, and then when you see a lot of people bunched up somewhere, jumping around each other, that's usually a good indicator of, hey, there's a fight going on there. I should probably go there and see if I can help out.
For sure. Now, you played on a competitive team back in the day, Three-Headed Monkeys, if I remember correctly, and you guys were scary. Your frog in particular was a terrifying frog to deal with.
Was pretty...
Top percentile frogs, for sure.
I played Froggy a lot different, though, than other people did. Most people play
wait, hold on a second. I don't mean to interrupt. That snare is murder. If anybody...
someone's going to die to that snare.
Eventually, yeah. It's later on in the match, I think, but good kill there by Lux. Sorry, so your frog play was played a bit different at the time.
Like, there's two ways to play Froggy, I think. One is to play him as a burst character, which is you get your damage upgrades, try to go in at the end of fights to pick someone off. The way I used to play him was more as an initiator, because we used to play a lot with a Clunk and a Raylan.
Yeah.
So we would use the dash to stun someone, and then throw a rift on top of them or snare bite them. To keep them locked down afterwards, while
another good use of momentum.
The Froggy could get to safety again. So that allowed me to pick fights a lot of the time, and then have my teammates follow up and then get the kills.
And not that it's impossible to do these days, because Ice Cubes is still a great way to start a fight. But back then, that used to be just a stun increase upgrade, right? Which made it far more potent.
Yeah, far more potent for that.
Still, like Froggy has a bunch of different builds, and I think that as you get into good bullpen. And I want to talk about that in a minute. But when it comes to playing at a high level, you can usually find one or two specific ways that work with each character. But every character does have different ways of playing it depending on the situation. So Froggy, like you mentioned, can be an initiator, but most of the time he ends up being a bruiser, doesn't he? He goes in after the fact to kind of clean up and stuff. Yeah, for sure. Now, what I wanted to talk about earlier was this idea of team makeup and how the two teams actually are constructed from the top. Now, in tournament play, Awesomenauts players have managed to create a drafting system with picks and bans and all that stuff. But when you're just in a high-level queue like this...
There's no draft. This is just two teams that got picked. But you can see on the red team, they have a very push-oriented team. You have Lone Star and Ted, who both have very strong pushing power. Ted can zone really well on this map, because the droid waves on this map are synchronized. So that means that the droids end up in the middle about the same time. So the top droids and the bottom droids are all in the same row. So if you shoot your vertical laser beam, your, what's it called?
The airstrike, yeah.
The airstrike. That escaped me for a second.
No, it's all good.
If you shoot the airstrike, you hit the whole droid wave, just like you saw here.
Yeah.
That way all the droids are clear, and then Lux just does his missiles to hit the towers, and he has insane range on that. You can also see build missiles, like...
Yeah, he did end up building missiles early, which is not something you see in a lot of competitive play these days. The typical build is to go really heavy into your left click after getting danger pins on your charge, so that way you can go ahead and start brawling. But again, Jimmy adapting to the situation and realizing that going in at this point is maybe suicide because of the Durple.
Yeah, Durple is really good at zoning. Like, Durple just puts a trap in front of him, moves a bit back. That way he creates a really strong zone in front of him where he can't run in as Lux. So Lux just responds by buying missile upgrades and just shoot at Yubi the whole time.
There is another way to deal with that as Lux, to go with the super heal charge, but that build hasn't exactly quite hit its stride. I think people are still experimenting with it. Ooh, like, that's the power of traps right there, unfortunately.
If you run into a trap and two other enemies are near, you're probably dead.
Yeah, 100% roasted. Now, as far as the blue team goes here, it's a different team that seems to be focused on two things. I feel like the Leon and the Durple were picked together in the sense
Yeah,
that Leon's supposed to be with the Durple, but on top of that, Durple was also picked because this map really does favor him quite nicely.
Yeah, because there's a lot of going up and down, and Durple's really good at like leaving traps in area where you want to move past a lot.
Like that teleporter, for instance.
Yeah, those teleporters. Like this map is a lot of moving from up to down, and then use the teleporter and then do the same movement throughout the level. And Durple can just leave traps over the whole way, so that makes it really...
right there.
The trap. That's
The poor
what we
guy.
talked about before.
Oh, no, keep in mind, the Lone Star is on the list for MVP as far as this game is concerned, so that death is unfortunate, but like it does not sully his name. In all seriousness, though, like this Durple is brutal, and he's being played by one of the better players in the game. Ubi has at least 1 or 2 tournament titles, I think, under his belt with teams that he's been a part of, and you see him frequently playing with.
I used to play versus him a lot in scrims and in tournaments, and they're a really scary team.
Oh, he's about to like get toasted here, though. Lone Star's ability to kind of keep up and well-aimed dynamite going to go ahead and secure that kill. But kill secured or not, that top turret going down is a big deal.
Okay.
So
if you want to look at the dynamite, I'm going to go back a little. Like, notice how he jumps up before he throws the dynamite. That way you can get like a little more extra range on his dynamite. So
because the extra verticality allows the arc to go farther. Yeah. No, his play is on point. On top of it, he's gone for a very offensive dynamite build, one that I don't see very often. Incendiary grenades are not picked altogether, usually because of the fact that they don't do a ton of damage, but this Lone Star deemed it necessary.
Incendiary here is like 2 really good things it does for you. It does more damage on dynamite, which is nice to hit Durple with.
That was one of the things that we talked about earlier.
Yeah, we're gonna check that out later.
Yeah, we'll check that out later, but that's something we're gonna come back to. That's also some good play right there.
Through the floor with missiles.
Oh, but then the trap right next to the teleporter. Yeah, it's a very dead Jimmy.
And this is gonna be a wipeout.
100%.
So what Blue wants to do now is go and push. They got 3 kills. They can easily get a turret.
Now, at this point, something really cool happens. Where Ubi is being positioned right now, we talked about this before the stream as well. There's a lot of things going on here, Richard. Do you mind explaining why Ubi's positioned there?
Ubi's standing there, so he has vision from the top. If you zoom out a little, you can see Ted be clearing above there. So this way, Ubi's standing there, and he's already zoning the Ted out with the nuke. He can keep the Ted from coming behind him.
Oh, if this is the kill, I think...
I don't like this. I don't think they should have gone into the base with everybody just respawning there. That probably killed him. That was a bit of an overextension. Yeah,
that gave him 2/3 of a level as well, and that's something that's changed since the last time you played a lot of competitive. Like with the XP system in place, if you're behind and you manage to get like even 1 or 2 bigger kills, you're back in the game effectively, in some way, shape, or form. Like the solar advantage might still be against you, but
Rodo died there. What happened there?
Jimmy happened, honestly. If this
Rodo's
low HP. Yeah, but watch this. This is kind of funny. So he goes in for the creep, right?
Yeah, and
he's
then
fine.
He sees him and
boom.
Ends him.
Yeah, that third clap in particular is difficult to get away from if he's on top of you, and because Jimmy doesn't have any slowdown, he can chase almost anybody, right?
Well, slowdown. He has to speed up.
Yeah, he's got to speed up. But like, you know how most people when they're left clicking, like to attack, they end up slowing down a little bit. Jimmy used to have that. They added that to the Lux 5000, but it made him impossible to play properly.
Here you can see the push power of the red team. They stay a bit too long, but they were there for about 20 seconds, and the turret is almost down completely.
Yeah, the bottom turret is almost done. The front bottom turret is gone, and the top front turret is also gone. So that's like 3 turrets in the span of like a couple of minutes. With that said, though, this Lone Star might still be toasted. Oh, he's alive. He's alive, but just barely. Ubi here, though, somehow surviving is something of a miracle. And then this happens. Leon comes in, manages to sneak in a kill. At this point, Ubi is getting pretty confident.
Yeah,
drops a snare.
Probably.
And
he gets away.
He gets away, but then he also lands a nuke in the perfect spot. Like, that was...
Wait, I want to see that again.
Yeah, no, that's one of the sicker plays I think I've seen in a long time. It's nasty. Like, the play started 10 seconds earlier when he put a trap up there. Then he started bouncing up and down, which forced Jimmy to follow suit. Jimmy lands in the snare trap, but the trap had already been set. because there's a nuke
So
coming
now
up
they're
to meet him.
pushing. Like this point that's coming out, you probably want to go back.
But
Yeah, these airstrike hits are unnecessary. You should have just moved back already. Get health.
now I'm surprised
Go
that the
for a
core didn't
different
take
push.
more damage here. Honestly, like
Well, that's due to their upgrades, really. Like, they have very little auto attack damage.
yeah,
Like, Rocco has no auto attack damage. Leon has backstab, which is
doesn't
nothing
work
to the
against
core.
buildings. Yeah, He's got Clover of Honor that works against buildings, but he has a reduced amount of damage. So it means that although he can push, especially with his clones, he's got a difficult time. So why are we like? Why is that so risky to push in like that? Because the top
Well-
turret is still there, right?
Yeah, the top turret is still there, so you only got the small exit on the right.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this fight is something.
Oh, the
That's a lot of
missiles!
skimmage. Yeah, those missiles are doing work this game.
Oh, and the
And
airstrike!
Okay, the wipeout, so now we're gonna see the push the other way. That's basically what happened for the blue team a while ago, and now happens for the red team, and they capitalize by pushing. Like,
They-
normally, a lot of, like, newer players
Yeah.
are like, I'm low life, I'm gonna go back, but you just killed 3 people, you know, you got time to just go forward. Like, your health doesn't matter if there's no one around to kill you.
That's true. That's true. Unless if you're
But,
very careless,
unless
it ends up
if
being a problem.
you stay
Oh, well,
around
Ted goes
very
down
long,
here.
Yeah.
Yeah, he stayed a little bit too
Yeah.
long. But
I'm seeing a trend here of staying too long when pushing.
but at the same time, you do need to push.
Yeah,
When you have a
yes,
situation where you've wiped out a good chunk of the enemy team, you need to go in. And like the red team did a good job of at least getting that done
Well,
because
that's the
Ted was
thing
at low
of,
HP. So
high levels, like pushing, they probably every time should have gone back like 1 or 2 seconds earlier, and they
Yeah.
would been fine every time.
But instead, everyone keeps dying for reasons. That's an unfortunate death. So that's a mistake that you can't really do in higher level play without it being a problem.
Let's look at Rocco. It's number 5.
Yeah, Rocco makes a mistake, jumps, runs out of jumps or something at some point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
right there.
Yeah, and
So he
jumps
made a
instead.
platforming mistake. That cost him literally his life.
Yeah, and now it's
Um,
2v3, so they're looking to be aggressive.
Yeah, well, this is the situation, right? Like, even if you have low life, if you manage to get even one more kill at this point, you gotta go as hard as possible. Now, the red team at this point isn't searching to go for the core. They're trying to take out this top turret. So that brings us back to our earlier conversation with escape routes. On the left side, the top turret's still there, and
Yeah.
the last time Blue tried to push in, it
Yeah, they
cost
died.
them their lives, right? Because they couldn't escape using the top area.
And they're gonna now destroy the top turret, and now it's open. Now when they assault the core, they have 2 escape routes.
Speaking of assaulting the core, Ubi's taking a ton of damage here. Is going to be able to put on a nuke and kills off the Ted, but at what cost? I mean, Lone Star picking up the kill there with his dynamite, and this core is practically dead. The Leon cannot survive this. The dynamite comes out and is going to force the Rocco to sit very far back. Like,
And the Rocco takes a lot of damage. They're all really low. This
Oh,
is,
yeah, that's
this is
toast.
game.
yeah,
This is
absolutely.
game.
So that was really well played by the red team because for a minute there, it looked like Ubi and his Leon Durple combo with a Rocco to back them up, like that was working out very, very well for them. And there
Yeah.
was a moment that, the Leon, showed that he's obviously on point and understands how the
Yeah.
game is played. But Ubi in particular set up some really sick traps and everything else. And
Definitely.
what cost them was just a couple of bad assaults on the red core, or
Yeah, and staggered deaths. So when they got the core damage, they just kept dying one by one after another, and that just kept giving space to the red team to keep those pushes going. Every time they ended up 3v2, they did more core damage and ended the game like that.
yeah, and it's interesting because there was a lot of kills in this game. Like it was a very kill heavy
It's
game.
60 to 21. That's pretty.
Well, in
pretty
13
kill-heavy.
minutes, no less.
Yeah, in 20
Like,
minutes. Like,
that's
it's
almost 3
very
kills a
aggressive.
minute.
But that's when you get with tongues, grabs, both teams playing very aggressively, pushing very hard whenever they could. That's also the thing, like a lot of high-level plays. Games are quicker because people capitalize on when they do stuff well and
Yeah.
then push together. Lower level, you don't see this as much. Then the game, people die, then people go back to base, and
Yeah.
it stalls out a little. But at higher level, people just, oh, we got a kill, let's go forward.
Yeah,
And that,
and in tournament play in particular, though, it does depend on the team makeup.
Yeah.
There are times when it ends up being a bit slower because people are very careful and thinking about the ranges of certain enemies and such. But in this case, honestly, the only range thing you really need to keep in mind was that Leon had tongue. So because of that, like what we call footsie nuts anyway, couldn't really rear its head here.
Yeah.
Now,
So I wrote down some highlights in the game.
yeah,
Because I
some.
checked this before.
Some.
Want to go over them?
Yeah, I'd love to.
Let's see.
So what's the first thing on your list?
Now, I'm going to start from where the game tends to get interesting. Let's see. I'm starting at like 8 minutes.
Okay.
On 8 minutes, we're at a point. Wait. I'm going back way too far. On 8 minutes, we're at a point where red team lost their structures.
Yeah.
The blue structures are very low. Basically, blue is an advantage.
Yeah. Now you mentioned before that the first turrets are like, even if the first turrets go down, like that's allowed.
You're fine.
Yeah.
Like it's a bit of momentum. It allows you, if your first turrets are down, it allows you to stand up for trying to get a wipeout, trying to get to their cores.
Right.
At this point, you basically, when they're down, you're threatening the last set of turrets.
Okay.
Whenever something happens. Now I'm gonna look at Ted here, and then I'm gonna start playing.
Okay. So what are we looking for?
What we're looking for is, do you see the super droid coming on the right side?
Yeah.
That super droid's gonna push. They just got 2 turrets, so they're taking out the super droids. Ted is like, I'm gonna deal with super droid top. Now, super droid is shooting a missile. That's a droids.
Yeah, and it's on a pretty...
And here from the right side comes Rodo. He's about to go invisible right about now. He keeps walking up. Then, like, the Ted doesn't know Leon is here.
And keep in mind, and I think that the rocket droid fires at a pretty regular rate. Like,
Yeah,
it's a very obvious tell when
it's
it's
easy
going to
to
attack
predict
as well.
when it attacks. Like, it has his gun down, it puts his up, gonna shoot. And at this point, tongue comes out. He tongues in the Ted right into the missile.
How much does that missile do in terms of damage?
About 400?
Yeah, 400 at level 1? Yeah, that's bananas. Okay.
So, yeah, that's an easy kill. And now it's 2v1. Rodo sadly falls into the airstrike.
Yep.
And goes to get held, but here the rest of the fight is just set up perfectly now for the rest to take advantage.
Yeah, so Ubi does end up taking a bit of missile damage thanks to the explosions.
And Ubi goes through the portal first, knowing the rest have to follow because they can't contest the Rocco.
Yeah.
And that way he already sets up a trap here. You see the trap spawning.
Yep, and Jimmy goes right into it.
And Ubi then goes right into his turret form to kill him off.
That was pretty brutal. And the Lone Star can't quite escape either.
Yeah, he can't escape.
And at this point, I think Ubi can still dip down. No, he can't.
Yeah.
He was still a little bit blocked.
And now that they got a wipeout, they're going to charge for this turret right away. When you're on this map, I think the most valuable turret to get is the bottom one.
Yeah. The bottom one opens up a lot of the map for you. It even gives you access to that HP if you need to like quickly fall back and it's still there. But that top turret, again, was very important because of that top force field.
And here we see the placing of Ubi where we talked about before. When Ted's going to come here, he can't do that much to defend. He has a super droid here he needs to defend. Defending the super droid is easier because you're not defending versus players. And it also does a lot of damage. So that's why he's taking that out first, waiting for his teammates to get back.
Now, it's also worth mentioning that Ubi's trap placement there was specifically so that if anybody came too close...
this is just zoning them out to not be able to come behind them, stop them from pushing.
And, like, that's the thing, though. They're, like, people, like top-end players are constantly thinking about this kind of stuff.
This is what I don't like, though. They're going forward.
But they're all back.
But Ted is here, Deluxe is here, Lone Star is there, Rodo has half-life already.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't like going forward. You're starting with a half a health bar disadvantage. Rocco takes damage right away. Ubi takes damage. And that just leads to everybody getting killed.
Yeah,
and because they're here, Lone Star just wait next to the bounce pads when they drop down again and then just pulls them to keep them in.
Which dealt a decent amount of damage. Now, Ubi's not going to get out of it alive.
Yeah, Ubi's not going to get out of it alive. Somehow,
well, Leon's fast.
But he has no life to defend, so Lone Star's just going to push. And this is where you see they overextended after getting their turret, and then the counter push happens right away.
So, one thing about this particular match is that the characters, or at least two of the characters I would say are guaranteed picked because of the map. Durple and Ted are very good here. How often do you think that enters into higher league play, like the character
a
selection
lot.
based on map?
For maps, you sometimes want characters like Ted is very good on some maps. Any map where the droids are synced, Ted is very good. Like on AI Station, the droids are not synced, so Ted loses a lot of value. But on Ribbit, the droids also are synced, so Ted gets a lot of value there. And anything that has a lot of up and down movement, Durple is very good. Just trying to talk about the characters in these matches mostly.
Yeah, of course.
But when you get to a map like Serona, characters that have a lot of sustain are usually very good because there's not a lot of regen on the map that you can get. And when you want to get it, you have to go back to your side, use the jump pad, get back. Takes a very long time.
Compare that to a map like Ribbit 4 where health is pretty plentiful. It's a little all over the place, and getting access to the creeps is simple enough. Now, how often? Like, okay, when it comes to
starting from here again.
Yeah, sure.
So here, Rodo's low life, the counter push is happening. This was just after the fight that happened here.
Yeah.
So Longstar is gonna push this turret down, get their first turret, and is probably looking to get the top turret. Rodo decides to start clearing top instead of getting held, going back to base, which probably would have been a better choice.
Okay.
So he could defend more reliable later. But I mean, he's still clearing, so it's not particularly wrong.
Yeah, he hasn't died
then
yet.
he decides to go for this creep, but meanwhile, Lux and Longstar are looking to threaten this turret. Longstar decides to go push top instead. It's totally fine.
Yeah.
But then Lux sees Rodo coming down here. And Rodo has no life, and he already dropped down. And Rodo probably now thinks to himself, oh god, I'm actually dead. Because, yeah, he just speeds up right away and then catches him out. Like, if he would have come back a bit earlier, just get his health, so he could defend with a full health bar, he would have been fine. And now you can see they're starting to stagger deaths. Like, Rocco and Durple used to be dead. Lone Star or Leon was alone on the map.
Yeah.
And because he was not careful while being alone, he's dead. So now they're at a 2-3 disadvantage again. That's what you call a staggered death. If your teammates die and you die before they come back, you have a staggered death. So you're behind an even longer time. You actually want to never see that happen.
Now, when you do end up dying like that, there's a pretty big penalty with it. I mean, in lower league play, you die, you have to go back through the loop again. That involves doing the drop pod mini game, and then you get back, and like it happens. But when you get into higher league play, the cost of it is pretty high. So when you die, you not only lose 30 solar, and you have to get back.
You lose momentum, which is like the 30 solar. Sometimes doesn't really matter at all, but the momentum you lose just is so hard because your droids get to the other side on the map and you want to follow those droids to push.
Yeah.
Here they get another bunch of kills and they're going forward again, but they have 2 people without any health. And I want to look at Yubi here because Yubi does an insane play here. He has no health, he has actually no right to go in. Like, he should not do this, but somehow he pulls it off. So he's gonna put a trap up here, so people can't use the bounce back.
Okay.
And then he goes up, and Lux noticed, hey, Yubi's very low, I'm gonna go after him.
Yeah.
But he already lost a lot of life somehow. And then
he's within one booty clap with.
And then he just waits. He probably looks at the minimap, to be honest, to see him fall down and then detonate the nuke.
I don't think he was able to detonate the nuke. He was just outside of it. The Jimmy landed right on top of it. That was like perfect aim and timing.
And now they're pushing again. This pushing is very good, but
like
as soon as they see that, they should now just run, and instead they kind of bounce up instead.
Stick around, try to do a little bit more poke. But the problem with staying around and trying to do a little bit more poke and fishing for a kill like that is now they're all very, very low.
Yeah, so
Lone
they
Star,
can't do anything.
Like they know that they can like go out and be aggressive again because there's nobody who's able to contest them. Like they're able to one shot any one of them. So they did get out before dying, which was important.
Yep.
So how do you recover from staggered deaths like that? Like what's the main strategy at that point?
not doing this.
Not doing
So,
this.
The Rocco walks forward while he sees these two right here.
Okay.
And he doesn't have full life. He shoots a whistle and still is standing here. Meanwhile, the Lux falls down,
Yeah.
goes after him, hits a bunch of missiles.
Including
He
the.
loses life. Instead of running here, he goes back forward again to fight into 3 people and just dies. And
But.
it was before Yubi and Rodo were there.
And with that in mind, as a result, they're able to actually put out a ton of damage onto Ubi.
Yeah.
And despite the fact that Ubi did get a kill, that
Yeah.
does end up being a 2-for-1.
Yeah, it was a 2-for-1 fight.
And never mind, that's a team wipe. Yeah.
It's a team wipe.
So that Rocco moving forward cost his team
Yeah.
there because his team tried to go back in to support him, put themselves in a weird position where Ubi could like overextended and couldn't move in siege mode. He couldn't drop down.
Now because the red team has so much push, they're just gonna capitalize on it.
Yeah,
They're
and they
gonna
used to be
push in.
3 levels behind. Now they're equalized, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
do
because of
not
all
go
the
in
staggered-
1v3.
Staggered deaths.
like so effectively to avoid staggered deaths, wait for your team.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you're in a situation where you have to do something, right? The enemy team has managed to capitalize on a mistake, and it's now like 3v2 or even 3v1. You're like the last man standing. What are your options at that point? Like, how do you play? Do you try to play aggressive to make a big play happen and cause variance,
No,
or
you don't try and do anything fancy. You just stay back, stay safe, wait for your teammates to get back. Don't get killed. You can defend, of course. You can stand behind your towers in
Yeah.
a safe position and just defend your towers. And yeah.
Yeah, let's not talk about that one.
Well, let's talk about that one because this is
Okay.
another stagger death.
Yeah,
Even though the red team didn't do anything for it, it's another stagger death. So they're looking to be aggressive again and
Yeah.
push. And you're gonna see that this last stagger death, this is like the 3rd stagger death in a row, is gonna lead to them losing the game.
yeah. Actually, it
'Cause
does.
now
end up
they're
being
gonna
that.
lose top.
So when you're in a situation where you're behind, like in a 3v2 or 3v1, stay safe. Now, here's a question from me. There are situations where you're 3v3 even, right?
Yeah.
And this has happened to me so many times where it's like, okay, it's 3v3, but we're losing. And they've got all the momentum in the world. In situations like that, what do you think helps in terms of strategies? Like in terms of build, like
Okay.
do you have to build certain items in situations like that, or?
When you've been losing every 3v3, it's probably because some of your team fights have not been working out. Yeah, I hear it. And this is where they lose the game of staggered stats.
Yeah,
So
because
this
of
is,
that one Rocco death.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Okay. So your question was, we're playing 3v3 all the time, but we're still losing.
Yeah.
Okay. At that point, you actually have to look back at every team fight you've had. That's very hard to do live. Like when I'm sitting back
Yeah.
analyzing a game, it's very easy to make mistakes. But when you're in the moment, it's way harder.
Yeah, for sure.
But when you've been losing fights, you gotta think to yourself, be calm, think, okay, what cost us to lose every fight?
Uh-huh.
Is it the Durple trap we run into? Is it a Durple trap we didn't run into, but during the fight, a Durple trap appeared somewhere and someone ran into that and then stayed still for way too long? In that case, you can try to get BKM.
Okay.
Um,
BKM. Pausing for a minute. That's something I want to talk about for sure. Would it be okay if we talked about that now?
yeah, sure.
All right. So BKM is one of those upgrades that I see very few people picking up.
I'm gonna exit the game.
Yeah, go ahead. Let's go ahead and
Show
take a quick
BKM.
look at what BKM is. So BKM it stands for Baby Curry Mammoth, right?
Yes.
And Baby Curry Mammoth is an upgrade that, as far as the life cycle of Awesomenauts was concerned, was about halfway through its life cycle before it went free to play. It's 110 solar, and it's what I would call the like PvP trinket of Awesomenauts.
Yeah.
So what it says is this: reduces the effect of all debuffs and knockbacks by 30%. That includes slowing power, stun duration, snare duration, silence duration, blind duration, amplified damage, knockback, time warp, and cocoon duration.
Yeah.
It's a long list, but effectively anything that's bad for you other than damage, it reduces by 30%.
Yeah, you can counter it for 110 solo. So where we were talking, like, if you can figure out what makes you lose every team fight, and if you come to the conclusion, we're losing every team fight because of CC, then get BKM on everybody on your team.
Yeah.
And and your fights might go a bit better. If you're losing to gnaw dots,
Yeah.
damage over time, then you might look, maybe we should pick up more regen and fight that way. Maybe you're losing because Froggy goes in the end all the time after you've used all your cooldowns and you have nothing to kill him off when he goes in.
Yeah.
Maybe hold some of your cooldowns a bit longer, be a bit more patient.
Okay.
When you're losing your 3v3 fights, you really got to analyze, okay, what's making us lose these fights and how do we fix that?
So careful, calm thinking
Yeah.
would help a lot more.
Yeah.
For those of you who are solo queuing at a high level, and trust me, I understand this, it can feel like it's nearly impossible to win a game by yourself. And like it's always your teammates letting you down or something like that. And I'm sure you've been in those situations too, Rich, where it's like I got teammates that are letting me down a little bit. In those situations, how important is it to be able to stay calm and keep that analytical mind that you just described?
Yeah, that's very important. But sometimes you say, "Oh, people aren't helping me," and you complain about them. But instead, you could. What I try to do in pub games is help my teammates without them knowing. So if I for the last game, Rocco would go on his own somewhere sometimes. Then I would just follow him. Like, I probably know, okay, the good decision is to push top.
Yeah.
But he's going bottom. That's not the optimal decision.
Right.
But I know if I go top alone, I'm not going to do much. And he goes bottom alone, he's probably going to die because he's there alone. Then you go with him, forcing him to work with you because you're with him.
Yeah. So it's better to force a team, to go in with your team than it is to just go it alone.
Yeah. And you can stick together with someone else just by running after them.
Right.
Even though he doesn't know the optimum choice of where to go on the map. It's still way more optimum to be with the 2 or 3 of you going to the wrong place than one guy going to the right place and the other 2 going to the wrong place. It's better to be at wrong place with the 3 of you to do something.
So, in other words, if you're having a hard time or your team's giving you a hard time, stick with the team. Try to focus on sticking with the team, keep a calm head, and try to help them without them knowing. And obviously, insulting them doesn't help at all. It just makes everybody saltier. But would you recommend, if you feel like you know what would be very, very helpful? So, for instance, you're facing a Gnaw who's going pretty heavy into dot damage. You're facing a Lone Star, and you're facing a Scoldier. That's a lot of damage over time, potentially. Specifically the Scoldier and the Gnaw in this case. So, you're up in that situation. Your teammate is not picking up Medican or any other regen.
Well, you can say in chat, guys, pick up Medican. And when I never try to target a individual when I talk to team chat. I always talk globally. Guys, get BKM, or we should get BKM.
Yeah.
I usually never talk to the guy directly because then he might feel attacked.
Yeah.
It's also what I learned from team play. When you're in your team chat, you're we should get BKM. You're in it together. And that way, no one feels attacked. They're they start thinking, oh, maybe I should do that, instead of oh, he's telling me I should do this.
Gotcha.
So that way you're giving him a hint, but he can still leave it to his own interpretation.
So there's a lot of mentality. It's not just the skill of playing the game, but it's also keeping a cool head, making good decisions, and keeping things copacetic. Okay, well, that's good to know.
Yeah. Should we maybe move to a lot of questions?
I think so, yeah. So we've got some questions. Specifically, apparently, people are worried about the viability of certain characters in lower leagues, like Froggy G versus others, or Gnaw, or Scoop, in my particular case, about 2 weeks ago.
Gnaw, to mention, Froggy, let's start with Froggy. Froggy is, I think, pretty good in lower league, if you can play him well.
Yeah.
But Froggy is actually really hard because you have your dash, and after you've used your dash, you're very vulnerable.
Yeah.
Sometimes keeping your dash is worth way more than using it and not having the threat of using dash.
Yeah.
A dash that's ready to come out is way more scary than a dash that already did come out and hit somebody. Because at that point, the game is set and predicted.
Yeah.
And after that, not. The thing with Scoop is very reliant on teammates.
Yeah.
He's actually very easy to play. I would recommend him to a lot of new players.
Yeah, because
You
he's
can
not
just-
mechanically difficult. He's
He's
just
not mechanically difficult at all, but
super
when you're
team
with a
reliant.
Scoop, your teammates have to realize, oh, my Scoop is gonna set up hammers for me. I need to follow up on those.
Yeah,
And that's where I talked before. When you're a Scoop, you want to follow your teammates.
right.
If you have a Lone Star on your team, follow your Lone Star. You can throw hammers. Your Lone Star can throw a dynamite after you've hit a hammer. And
Yeah.
then you maybe get a kill. And the Lone Star is going to decide, oh, I'm going to push because I just got a kill. And then your job as Scoop is to keep Lone Star safe. Your job is not as Scoop to roam around the map, try and get kills on your own. It's just protect your pusher.
Yeah,
or
and Scoop in particular can do that very, very well because of
Yeah.
his ability to self heal. So knowing in Scoop's case, it's knowing your strengths, and maybe that's a thing to keep in mind with all lower league play with characters is that knowing the strengths of the character can really make or break a character. I think that any character is viable, especially in the lower leagues, and it's just a matter of beginning to learn the characters. But I guess that's a discussion for like another time. Is how best to learn characters, and I don't know, like just practice mode would help a lot for beginning players, and then
Yep.
just getting used to playing against other people and learning and all that stuff.
Definitely.
So, is Scoop a character that contributes much to high level teams, and what do pre-mades consist of? So, for me anyway, from the little bit that I've seen recently in the metagame, Scoop is actually very, very good. Body Hunter in particular has been using him lately, and like done an excellent job with Scoop, a scary job. And considering that for the previous 2 weeks before then, I'd been railing on Scoop. Like I talked with Rogsy, and both of us thought Scoop is just the worst. There's nothing
it's
good
like-
about. It turns out we were wrong. It's just a matter of finding a team that works with them.
That's something that starts happening in the game now. Like before, you could make a lot more generalizations because there were less knots.
Yeah,
So the game was less complicated.
yeah,
Because if a enemy team picked 3 characters or had 2 characters locked, and you could pick something,
yeah,
you had way less options to deal with it. Now that we're getting more characters, like Scoop is always going to be an option if they decide to go all in on a setting up froggy dashes with something. If you take Scoop away from them, so they can't set up with hammers, you can lock down the froggy with a hammer.
yep,
Then it's just a result of what are they playing. Oh, they're playing this, now Scoop is good. So that's the drafting in high level games and competitive games, which
is a really good segue into like tournament play. So how is tournament play different from pub play?
okay. Before it's not blind pick, so you know what other teams are picking.
Yeah, and usually this drafting process as
Yeah.
well, right?
It's way different. Some characters are really good when you pick them last draft. Like right now, I'm talking a lot about Froggy, I know, but I played a lot of Froggy, so bear with me. When like Froggy right now is not that strong because a lot of characters have come out that counter him.
Yeah.
Scoop is very good versus him. Lux is very good versus him.
Durple has
Even
always
Yulip
been
can
good against them as well.
Lock him down. Durple has always been good versus him. Like those characters are very abundant and very meta at the moment. Genji is good versus him because he can cocoon him, and
But in a drafting process, because you can wait until there's a good situation for him to pop up, you can actually.
So you can look. Okay, the enemy team has a Raylan, a Ted, and a Rocco, for instance.
Oh yeah, that's frog food.
And you got a pick left. You're going, oh, Froggy is good against every 3 of these characters, and we're gonna pick up Froggy. And suddenly Froggy is like the best pick you could do. But if you're playing versus a Durple and a Lux and a Genji, you're not gonna kill anybody as Froggy, so you never want to pick him. At that point, he's basically the worst character you can pick.
Yeah, and if you guys want more information about how like tournaments work and tournament picks and all that stuff, there's gonna be a show after we're done here, the Rumble show with Mr. Pillow, and there's going to be a demonstration, I guess, of how all that works. So if you're confused about how the banning and picking process, changes how you play the game, that's definitely one thing. Because you can get rid, like, there's bans first. You can get rid of characters that you know are going to be problematic. I know that at least I'd say like a month or so ago, like Vinny was always like just gone every single time. And as soon as Deadlift came out, everybody was like ban Deadlift first. But since then, things have changed. There's different first bans. People have different opinion of certain characters. Like I mentioned recently, Scoop used to be like we'd lose every game that we played Scoop, but now they figured out that Scoop plus Leon plus one other high damage character is more than enough to compensate for his lack of damage, and it ends up being a really good time as a result. So again, stick around for the Awesomenauts Rumble after this one, because they're going to show you how competitive play works. And if you're brand new to the game, this is a great way to see how competitive play looks. Yeah. Let's see, what else do we have here? So what are some of the core characters in higher leagues, do you think? Like, what are... Or like some good character habits to have.
Wait, you mean like what are sort of characters you can play? Like,
yeah, or like when you're picking a character, what are some good habits you could have so that way you have
what you
better
want
time.
to have is a rotation of characters you can play, which all do something different.
Okay. So you don't want to pick Froggy, Xenia, Leon,
not
and
too different.
Vinny and Spike as your only people that you play.
Yeah, because then you got no one tanky you could play if you ever need to.
Mm-hmm.
You want to start having, you want to be able to play, like, I will take me as an example.
Yeah,
for
sure.
my team, I used to play Scoop, Penny, Froggy, and Swiggins.
Yeah, so like two bigger tanks with initiation.
Those are the four main things I played. I played Rocco Layer as well when he was really strong.
Mm-hmm.
But those four I mostly played. In there, I got the way we played. I played most initiation characters. So I played initiation on Scoop. I played initiation on Froggy, but sometimes burst follow up as Froggy. Swiggins is very good at initiation. And Penny is like a really good brawler.
Oh yeah, she is exceptional.
And right now with Gun Penny being viable,
in some situations, Gun Penny's necessary to pick up because that allows you to actually
makes her an even better brawler. In my opinion. But like if you got a set like Nuts like that you can play, then if you look at your teammates in pop games, you can see, my teammates picked these two Nuts.
Mm-hmm.
You can find a character in your pool which you're good at that you can follow up with to complete their comp.
And when you've got completing a comp as a sentence, that brings up another question from the chat. When it comes to building a comp, like you see, like whether you're solo queuing or you're playing with a team, there are some knots that command you to build around them, right? Yeah. If you see a Derple, like Leon is a good pick all of a sudden, like much better. If somebody on your team picks Yuri, there are certain knots that are suddenly going to be much higher priority to pick with that character. So what would you say are some of the more core knots that you have to keep track of? And in those cases with those core knots, what are some characters you can pick to complement them?
Okay. So first, this is not really relevant for most players because they're not going to be able to see the enemy picks in normal public games. But when you
from a purely team perspective, then.
From a purely team perspective, it's when you see the enemy pick an Ayla.
Yeah.
Aylas are usually very aggressive. They want to go into a team, try as many people as possible.
Mm-hmm.
You want to pick something that when she goes in, you can get rid of her.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking Coco Knockback, Leon or Lone Star with a bull.
Yep.
That way, when she goes in, you can knock her away from your team while also doing a lot of damage to her.
And there's certain upgrades that help on that front as well. Considering that the only knot that I play to a level where it actually gets me wins most of the time is Voltar. A lot of the time, and I end up picking up the knockback on Healbot in order to deal with characters like Ayla. So
that's another knockback. Like knockback is very good.
Yeah. So knowing the upgrades of your character pretty much in and out helps a lot in that case as well. Would you say that happens a lot with your own team though? Like if your team picks something, are there times when your team picks something that you look at that and you think to yourself, well, I should pick a different knot than what I was thinking?
Yes, sometimes it happens. Sometimes you make the wrong choice, and
so
they're gonna play to it.
Okay.
Like, there's not much more to say about that.
Yeah.
I think.
So, okay, fair enough. But whenever like somebody on your team, for instance, like picks Durple, okay,
Okay.
at that point, it's probably not a good idea to pick up, I don't know, Yuri as well.
No. Yeah, and at that point you have two characters that both do a lot of zoning. Like
Yeah.
if it's Ribbit, you're probably very good in the early game
Yeah.
because the play area is very small, the middle is very contested, but when the late game hits, you're not gonna need that much zoning. So then you fall
So
off.
in that case,
so that's why you probably don't want to pick it, even though it's really good in the early game.
Okay, so that brings me up to the question that I was trying to ask, I guess, and I guess helps me word it a bit better. There are times when a character comes out, like, comes in as a pick, and you do not want to double down on a role. Like, both Durple and Yuri are currently, like, in this hypothetical scenario, they're currently doing the same job.
Yeah.
Right? So you don't want to double down on that job. You want to pick a variety most of the time, right? So if somebody picks Durple, don't pick Yuri. If somebody picks Frog, you don't need to pick a Vinny to go with it, although it works sometimes as well. It's usually just a good idea to have variety as far as roles go.
Yeah, so you can do more.
Yeah, which brings us to the roles. If we take a look at the armory for a second, you'll realize that all the different characters have different roles. Like, we're currently on Lone Star's armory page and on the items, and underneath his name, it says Fighter. If we go to the next page,
Oh, yeah, you can go.
if you go to the next page, Deadlift is considered a support. If we go to the next page,
Yeah, and because he has a shield. Of
yeah,
course.
and Max Focus is considered a harasser. So, how important are these roles in determining, like, the knot, and can the knot break out of those particular roles?
Okay. Well, you can always build something that they're not known for. All the fighters we see here in other games, you would usually call them brawlers.
Yeah,
They're usually very good at fights that take a long time.
yeah,
So the ones I'm seeing right now is Rocco. Rocco can shoot a lot of arrows.
yeah.
When he activates Vengeance, he slows everybody he hits, and he can just shoot at everybody who gets in his range for a really long time.
Yeah, and his left click does a decent amount of damage
And
with the right
because
upgrades.
of the way it works, when you keep hitting people, the duration keeps increasing. So
Right.
you can fight for a really long time. And all these fighter nuts are very good at that. Chucho has a lot of DPS.
Yeah,
so
particularly
it's
if he
really
lands a
good.
grenade, he gets an attack speed increase from the Blabblezork upgrade as well. So
Jimmy as well.
lifesteal off of nanobots plus
Like
a
if you
hefty
build
amount of
heavily
damage.
into your AA, you can brawl for days.
Yeah,
But like the highlight game that we saw before, he actually chose to build a lot of missiles.
yeah,
And then suddenly he turns into more of an harasser.
yeah, a harasser or a pusher even at
Yeah.
that point, right? Even with the lack of damage to droids, because it does do reduced droid damage now compared to when he first came out. It still is enough to like clear out waves and such. And even like support knots in this game, like supports in other MOBAs like Dota or HOTS, they tend to be on the frailer side. Like Dota 2 has like Crystal Maiden, who's notoriously like just squish, like literally shatters. Compare that to Ix or
It's
Voltar
not
or
squish
Genji.
at all.
Yeah, well, not only is Ix not squishy at all, but all the supports that are in this game can brawl and do a decent amount of damage as well. Like Ix can handle his own. Voltar's notorious for the amount of burst and assassin-y stuff he can do. Genji can
I
brawl.
always get surprised by Voltar. Every time, it still happens to me all the time. I see a Voltar alone and think, hey, there's a Voltar alone. I can take this guy. And then suddenly my health bar disappears. I'm dead.
So even knowing the roles is helpful, and it kind of gives you an inkling as to what the character can do. But I think it's worth mentioning that every single Awesomenaut can fight and do damage, and in fact, it's important that if you are playing a Naut that you do damage, regardless of what the role says, and that it's more as you get into higher league play. It's not about the role as much. In lower league play, it's important to know the role first and foremost, and from there play around that. But in higher league play, knowing the individual Nauts and what their weaknesses and strengths are on a case by case basis, and even on an upgrade by upgrade basis, can make a big difference. In Froggy G's case, like you mentioned before, he can be the person that finishes up and cleans up, or the initiator, based off of which way he goes. Although nowadays it's typically the first route that first route that he goes. And there are some Nauts that are just really good at everything all the time. like Lone Star, for instance, is able to fight
And push.
pretty much no matter what he builds.
Let's look at Lone Star here.
Yeah.
Okay. That's why, like, if you're looking for a character to play in pub games,
Yeah.
I
What
can
characters can you play in
definitely
pub games? Good idea.
recommend- Like, I'll recommend Lone Star to anybody who picks up the game to start to learn. You can fight with Lone Star. You can push. You can save your teammates with Bull. When you pick up Lone Star, don't press Bull on cooldown.
Yeah. Why is that? What's the danger of using Bull on cooldown, especially against droids?
If you're gonna use Bull on cooldown, and then you can't use it when you want to. So you gotta think of Bull as a knockback tool.
Okay.
When you see an enemy and you can get next to him, you can decide, oh, I'm gonna push him that way, or I'm gonna push him the other way. You can usually. I'll go into a try game with Lone Star. I'll show you guys. Yeah, you can basically decide where you want someone else to go. So you have Bull. If you want, you can get damage on it, so it's a bit more fun. It's gonna be
Well, also
regen.
it's like I'm gonna talk about that in a second once you're done, and you can tell me whether I'm
My Bull is on this
full of it,
speed.
but
Okay. Like here, I see Froggy. If I go, nah.
well, you
my
used it off
Froggy's
cool.
gonna
You used it
kill
on
me.
cooldown, right? So you couldn't help your Froggy earlier.
Okay, I'm gonna wait till someone's back. So let's say this is the bottom of Ribbit.
Okay.
I'm standing here in the bush.
Okay.
He's not seeing me.
Okay.
Nah. Here are the droids. I'm not attacking the droids. And he goes here like, oh, I'm gonna attack the droids. So I'm gonna drop next to him and bull him towards our turret. Suddenly he takes a bunch of turret damage. I can dynamite him, I can shoot him, and then he's dead.
Yeah.
That's just being patient on bull. If I would be standing here attacking the droids, spamming bull on cooldown, their blue droids would have ended up here, making the Froggy stand here. And
Which
not
would have been
being able
safer for
to-
him because he's behind
yeah,
his,
he would
he's
have
next
been
to his turret.
safer. So because I waited on using my bull and actually not attack the droids, I could knock him that way
Yeah.
and kill him afterwards. Now, a real good Froggy is when that happens to him, he's gonna end up here and he's gonna dash back to the right side.
Unless if he used dashing
get safe.
correctly, which is a rookie mistake, but it does happen.
That's again, don't choose your abilities on cooldown, but use them when they do a lot.
Yeah.
So
The
that's
threat and the potential of a good dash is sometimes more important than having used it at the beginning of a fight, like you said earlier. Okay, so Lone Star would be a top recommendation for you. What other knots would you recommend for like a beginner player who wants to get better? So Lone Star, just all
Lone
around.
Star, even though Scoop is hard to play with teammates, I still recommend him a lot. I'm gonna gravitate towards a lot of characters I play.
Fair enough.
If you wanna learn a burst character, I could recommend Vinny.
Why Vinny?
Froggy is also nice, but I think Vinny is a bit easier. You can have a silence on your dash, so it's harder for them to capitalize on wrong dashes.
On top of that, Cloud also has a couple of escape options with the movement
Plus, you can
speed
blind
or
them.
the yeah,
It's just a bit easier to use.
and debuff
overall.
immunity. That's important.
People are saying Raylan.
Raylan?
Raylan, yeah, and everybody gets Raylan for free if they use
The recruitment codes, yeah.
recruitment code from everybody else.
Speaking
I like
of Robin,
Raylan
do you have a
too.
recruitment code?
When the thing about Raylan is for new players, your self stuns, and a lot of people, new people, take a really long time to learn that they can't snipe whenever they want to.
Yeah. And on top of that,
because-
it's funny because it takes some people a little bit of time to learn that there's like a shorter period of time. You don't have to wait for snipe to go off automatically. You can actually click it a little bit earlier than that as well. And that takes takes a bit of practice. But there's one person on your team when you're doing a lot more competitive stuff. Mr. Pow was a disgusting Raylan and was capable of doing quite a lot with her. But a lot of people nowadays find that Raylan is really, really strong in lower leagues, but tends to taper off a lot in competitive play.
Yeah.
Why would you agree with that? And
I can see that. I can see that.
why would you agree with that?
It's like she's very squishy. Like when she fights,
Oh, she doesn't have a lot of
she
HP
loses.
either.
She loses her movement speed, so she has an upgrade. Let me go back to shop for a
Yeah. But I also just realized she's got really low HP. Like Froggy's at
Yeah.
1250.
Like
She's 1300.
when you start sniping
So-
and there's a froggy there, he can just dash into you before you can shoot your snipe.
Yeah.
And then he comes next to you, stuns you, starts using your tornado.
Mm-hmm.
Before you can get your rift off to defend, you're probably already dead. So you really gotta watch out with snipe. You kind of want to wait with snipe until people have used their cooldowns. So
Okay.
you can't use them on you while you're sniping.
Now you're saying that there's an upgrade
let's
to
see.
help you while you're moving around and stuff.
So Raylan's boots are very special.
There's
Okay.
actually money if you go to the left.
Yeah, that button
there?
gives you money, I'm guessing?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Oh, I like this. How did I not notice this before?
I don't know, but this is the world's best trying level.
Okay.
It literally
Um,
rains money.
So yeah, you can see I'm very fast now. But as soon as I start to shoot, I'm moving slow again.
Yeah. Do Raylan's boots actually have a base movement speed increase, or do they only work outside of combat?
I think they have both. I'm not actually sure.
Here, if we go back to the shop, it'll actually tell you in the tooltip. I think that they only work outside of combat too, which is brutal.
Yeah, they work outside of combat as soon as you start shooting.
Then you're back to
It's,
base movement
yeah.
speed. Yeah. So that makes her very
But-
difficult in a mobile. But whoa, hi there, Solar Boss. How's it
But
going?
then again, like she has a really long gunshot, so you want to try and stay at max range. Like you can shoot from very far away.
Hitboxes. How important is it to know the hitboxes of the character that you're playing?
I would actually say not that much.
Okay.
What is a hitbox?
So a hitbox, Robin, which is an excellent question. A hitbox is the way that the game decides whether or not something got hit or by an ability or not. So whenever an ability is used or a shot is fired or something like that, it shoots like as far as the program is considered, it shoots out like a tiny box or a circle in some cases. So like Derple's nuke or Clunk's explosion are all hit circles. Those projectiles, if they encounter another box, another hitbox, then depending on what it hit, it'll deal damage or not. So knowing where the hitbox is and where the zone is of, whether or not something is going to hit in fighting games in particular is very important, because for certain games like Street Fighter, like a character like Dhalsim has very long hitboxes, so it can hit very, very far away. Raylan has the ability to hit very far away thanks to Snipe and such, and Snipe has a pretty large hitbox too. You can hit some interesting...
Like you see the small line here, but
Yeah.
the actual snipe beam is like way
Way thicker, yeah. So as a result, it's able to hit many
like,
more things.
Clunk is very big. He has a very big hitbox, so there's basically hidden, but there's a big square around Clunk
Yeah.
where you can hit him. Like if you hit him to the side, it actually works.
That also means your arm usually can't be hit, right?
It depends on where the hitbox is. I'm not sure if Raylan's arm gets hit. I think that's just at like the tip of her gun's outside of her hitbox. I think.
Yep.
But yeah, I think her arm is within it. Now another thing. Notice how the Clunk isn't slowed down, but he's still taking damage from the Time Rift. That's because the hitbox for the slow on Time Rift isn't as big as the damage hitbox on Time Rift.
Like the damage goes out a little to the left and to the right.
And a little bit to the top as well. So there's gonna be some moments where you're taking
So,
damage from
snipe
Rift.
it.
And,
Shoot them first until they're low life.
Yeah.
And then when they start running away, then snipe them. Don't snipe first. Just keep shooting normally until they are low life. Then they start running. Then you snipe them.
so focus on Blaster first.
Yep.
Okay, fair enough. So that'd be your tip
Oh.
for Raylan, and that would be how you could make Raylan work.
Yep.
Okay, I would agree with that. That makes sense to me too. Let's see. So Raylan, potentially, Scoop, and Lone Star you'd recommend as well.
Yeah, Finny.
Who would you not recommend at all? Like, under no circumstances, if you're new to the game, should you try learning to play first thing?
Xenia.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. Why is that?
Okay, Xenia is very hard. She has very low life, gets killed very easily, but she does a lot of burst damage.
Yeah,
And she has, when she attacks out of stealth, she has a silence window
yeah.
that you really have to use. And Xenia is watching enemy cooldowns. When they've used their cooldowns without knowing you're there, then follow up. Xenia is actually very good against a lot of characters with a lot of health because she does percentage damage.
Yeah, her scissors do like 8% of their life. No, 3% of their enemy Awesomenauts
Which
maximum
is,
health. So if they end up having like 3,000 HP, then like Clunk, for instance, she does an extra 30 damage just for them existing,
Yeah.
which is a decent amount.
Yeah.
On top of that, she's got like mechanical intricacies that make her very difficult to understand as well, because you have to do attack canceling, and like,
Yeah.
I think she's maybe the only character that
is-
needs that.
You need to do attack canceling. The knives. You need to hit your knives, because if you don't hit your knives, you don't get cooldown reduction on your stealth again.
Yeah.
You need to land all your hits. I would not recommend Senya until you've like mastered at least anything else.
Yeah, like if you wanted to play a Xenia-like character, though, that is an assassin, would you recommend Leon?
Yeah,
Because he
I would.
seems similar in some cases.
I think definitely in lower level games, Leon is very strong, because if people don't notice him, and if you're like in lower level games, people jump a lot less.
Yeah.
Guys, a good tip to playing well: jump a lot.
Jump around, jump up, and get down.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
But people don't jump a lot, so people keep standing next to each other on the floor.
Okay.
And when that happens, Leon can just keep attacking and do a lot of damage that way. And since he doesn't get slowed while he attacks, so most characters with a gun, they get slowed as soon as they start shooting.
Which is why you need to do individual clicks in higher league
Yeah.
play for
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. We can talk about that later.
Then you can just run after people and hit them.
His jump is pretty bad though, right?
Leon's jump.
Leon's jump,
think
he's
Leon's
actually
jump is okay.
pretty mobile. His movement speed is good, and his jump
Like,
is
his-
average height,
His jump
reasonable
is
control.
very fixed though, but when you get used to it, it's fine.
Yeah, and it's reasonable control. It's not as much control as Scoops. Scoop
It's
has an
very
incredibly high
predictable,
control jump.
Like
but-
when you go to someone, you can just run after them, and like this is what typically even though it's a bot, a lot of people that just start playing out, they don't jump, they just run.
Yeah, they get a bit mind
And-
flooded and don't.
So you can just run after them.
This.
Except
Well,
here,
now
apparently.
now Raylan's dodging around. See the difference it makes.
Yeah, it just makes me way harder to hit there. Like,
So left click, like you still need to practice and learn to aim with Leon, obviously,
yeah.
but
And
he's a little bit more
also,
forgiving.
Like, don't keep hitting your buttons, because it's way harder for. Like now I'm holding my button, and
Yeah.
it's way harder for me to hit her. But if I don't click at all, every time I wait till I'm next to her, then click to hit her,
Yeah.
it becomes way easier. Like, click, 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 click,
Gotcha.
click, click, click.
And
if,
that-
if
that's
I would
important.
have held, I would do
Have
my
missed it a
slash
million
every
times.
time. I would not be next to her.
Right on. And how important do you think that's for, like every? Like I think that's pretty much important for every character, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
It really is.
Like being accurate with your left clicks. You can practice that like in games against bots. Even in this map, like learning how to hit melee is tough. Like trust me, I understand that. How do you feel about Ted? He's pretty cool looking. Like he's got lots of guns. Some people would be really tempted
Yeah.
to pick him up. Would he be good for a newer player?
I think I think that you should pick up second. If you've played a lot of Lone Star
Yeah.
and you go like, I really like the damage that I'm doing while pushing, and I like to do even more and trade in a bit of self-defense in losing the bull.
Yeah.
You can pick up Ted.
Okay. And he's not completely defenseless. I mean, he does have
No,
access
no.
to stun on his stim pack once you level
which
him up
is
a bit.
really good.
Yeah, very helpful.
It's not like he's defenseless, but he has less defense for sure.
Gotcha. All right, so let's do at least one more not to pick up at all, unless if you are secretly Nikki and somehow have started up a new account.
Shout out to Nikki.
Shout out to Nikki.
really good.
So who would be your like your last character like you just wouldn't touch? Because I've got my own three.
I think Scree.
Really?
Scree is nice.
Okay, so Scree is nice.
Like,
So would you recommend to pick him up or like second or would
like,
you
when
recommend?
you just want to play a bit and not think too much, Scree is really nice to play.
Okay, well
Because-
I'm gonna disagree with you on
Okay,
on
that's
this
fine,
one,
that's
but
fine.
okay.
But
Because I think that Scree does have a decent amount of like you have to practice him and stuff, but I think that he'd be a good he'd be my Ted. If you
Yeah,
think
yeah,
that Ted's
yeah,
a good second pick,
fine,
I'd say that Scree
fine.
is too.
fine.
Just because like if you get his totem wrong, like it becomes useless.
Yeah.
But his left click is more
Totem
forgiving, which is good.
a lot like Bull.
Yeah.
But instead of pushing someone around, you can zone them away by pushing it behind there. Now he can't run.
Yeah,
Unless
and
he jumps
this is
over
where
it,
you put
but-
out your saw blade and then
And then.
yeah, do
But,
the triple tap.
The thing about it is, if you're still working on aiming,
Yep.
if you're still working on aiming, don't cut it quite down yet. You don't really have to aim with Scree. Like, you just need to be near, and a lightning rod will hit.
Yeah, it's like on I think a
Like
15-degree angle in either direction, so
below
it's like a
him, and I'm
30-degree.
Still hitting him, which is kind of nice.
Okay, fair enough. So you'd recommend Scree then?
Yeah,
Okay,
sure.
fair enough. So I think that Yuri would be a terrible pickup if you're starting out.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so you'd agree with me on that one.
I agree with that.
Okay. Let's see. Who are some popular-looking characters that people would be tempted to try out?
Voltar.
Voltar. Okay.
Voltar.
How do you feel about Voltar for a newer player?
I think that like if you're looking for if you like playing support characters in different games, I
Yeah.
think Voltar is very nice. Like Voltar is the most straightforward support. Like his support is I do healing, I can do damage around myself to
Okay.
protect myself, and I can buy a knockback if I need it to help my team. And you can just look up a beefy guy in your team. So if you have a Clunk, a Durple, a Scolder, even.
Okay.
You just follow those around, keep them healed up, and meanwhile you can do damage to anyone that gets near you.
That's true. I think that his
So,
placement makes him difficult, though, because of his complete lack of escape options, really.
Yeah, but
Um,
to be fair, if you're a new player, you're playing versus people who can't take advantage of everything yet.
True.
Of you being out of position.
That's true. Okay, so for those of you who are maybe like still brand new to things, you're stuck with the beginner rotation to begin with, and as your profile levels up, eventually you'll be knocked out of that and put into the free-to-play rotation for the week.
Okay.
So your beginning rotation, if you're before a certain profile level, is Max, Lone Star, Scoop, and Frog. Now, we've talked about Frog at length, so we know what to do there.
Well, we talked about Lone Star Scoop as recommendations as well.
Yep, we did.
We talked a lot about Froggy.
Do you know a lot about Max?
I don't know a lot about Max because Max is pretty new. I have not played him myself a lot.
Okay.
But I've been destroyed by some good Max. So I got a bit of experience there.
Okay.
What you want to do on Max that I've seen that works very well is try to sneak out a slow on somebody and then follow up with the
Scene illuminations, like the lasers,
the
yeah.
gun after you can do this. So I'm gonna try this. I've actually never played Lux.
Yeah, no, like Max is one of those characters that because he's a little
So
bit
let's
newer
try
and
this.
he's a little bit
Let's try
strange
this.
looking. Maybe some people are not
So
immediately
he has a
aware of
shotgun.
what he does.
Like his movement is a bit like Yuri. He can fly.
He is a
anywhere he
lot
wants.
faster vertically speaking.
Yeah, for the Yuri goes up and down. Like Yuri has a jetpack trick where you can turn off your jetpack and fall faster.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when it comes to Max, I think that Max is one of my I really like him. He's really cool. When it comes to Max, I think that it's really important to remember to keep your distance until it's a good time.
Yeah.
Kind of like what we were talking about with Frog. It's not your job to be in the front line. It's your job to stay back and do whatever damage you can from a distance and using the slow-mo shot to help support your team. But when push comes to shove, your left click is actually really damaging. It starts off with being 90 damage per click and can do
That's
like
a lot.
well over 100 damage by the time you
but you
upgrade
have
it a
to
bit.
get very close though. Like,
Yeah, you can get very close. There's an upgrade for a newer, especially if you're newer, definitely pick this up. The range increase, the floodlight increases the range by almost double. It's very impressive.
so this is SlowWolf giving me advice now.
Yeah, at this point. So the XLR camera. So if you go to the left twice, the orange one.
this one.
Yeah, that increases your floodlight range by a decent amount. I think it was
that's
recently
a
nerfed.
lot of range.
Yeah, so that helps increase it a lot. And if you sit on the money button a lot more, I think that the peak thing to keep in mind with Max is that the main upgrade is the one in the upper right corner to start,
Okay.
which is the Brutalities of the Kraken Unveiled. Now, you don't have that starting out, but if you went to get to unlocking
the
it,
less projectile. So when you do this, the less one hits more.
yeah, it hits for burst.
Okay.
Which helps you to actually last hit droids, guarantees you the solar from them, all that stuff. Last hitting is a mechanic from other MOBAs, and that's why I keep using the term all the time, because I played a lot of other MOBAs before
I think
this.
I missed my last shot.
You did. which is why it's a little bit harder to land. But it is really good at farming a lane. If you just sit there and shoot droids, like the droids will practically all like be dead or will actually just die. But if you're a brand new player, what you want to focus on as much as possible with Max is on his left click, I think, because it's safe, it's easy to land, and it's not very difficult to work with.
That's a lot.
Yeah, that hurts a lot. Not to mention that the actual DPS of the thing is still doing hundreds of damage. So,
Okay, guys, if you want a beginner build, look at this. Maybe pick up some regen if you're...
So what I'd recommend for beginner players for Max, if you go back to the shop for a second, because you're only stuck with the first 3 rows on your first level, you don't have much choice. But the instant you get to level 2 or 3, when it comes to your left click, it is important to keep in mind that if you're brand new to the game, you don't know how to attack click yet. Yeah. So the flying camera drone, the one directly to the right there, it means that you don't slow down anymore. Whether you're going backwards, forwards, or anything, which makes them a lot of fun to chase
so
and kite
you can
with.
just hold and fly.
Yep, but try going backwards with this at the same time and watch what happens.
Oh, that's really fun.
Yeah, it is really fun. And it does a really good job for newer players.
I think I'm going to play Max tonight.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good move. He's a lot of fun. But that's a key upgrade, I think, for newer players. Once you unlock the brutalities of the Kraken Empire, learn to use it. And finally, like, don't get close. Your biggest weaknesses, I think, as a Max player, are going to be people like Penny, people like Vinny. You actually can handle pretty well because all he does is he dashes and then he's done. But Penny can keep on you. So fighters like her, like Frog, like
yeah, I play a lot of Penny.
Lone Star.
I've noticed like a lot of Max, I can sort of float next to them.
Yeah, exactly.
By jumping.
I think Penny is honestly Max's biggest weakness.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Okay, so with that said, what do you think would be your biggest tip to getting somebody, like, into somebody who might want to get into the competitive scene? What do you think would be the main thing for them to learn?
Well, first thing, look up when tournaments are.
Yeah, okay.
Get to 10 minutes. Annual Awesomenauts Rumble, which is the show after this, is doing a lot. They have like an event every month, I think, where you can just join.
Okay.
And like, just get 2 people and sign up. Like, that's the first part. The first time you might not do so well. Second time you might do better. And just play a lot of games. Like, if you get a few knots, learn them. I usually say the best way to learn a knot is play 100 games of them. I know that sounds a lot, but when I want to learn a new knot, the first thing I do is just grind 100 games on a character.
Okay.
Some of you might think that takes forever, and it does. And you might think that you're already good after like 10 games. But the difference, playing 100 with a character to playing only 10, it's actually kind of a lot. Just get a few characters, play a lot of characters on those. Try to draft those characters. Like, don't draft things that you don't know how to play, even though they might be good picks.
Okay.
Yeah, that's basically it. Look when the tournaments are, sign up, and...
Okay. What I've got currently going on is a replay, and oh, gotcha. Sad face, but like we're gonna take a look at some of the featured matches and see what's going on with them. This one's potentially interesting. Yeah, I'd be willing.
Does it have Olivier in it?
No, that's not Ollie.
No, it's not Ollie.
It's a different 4.
Let's go ahead and take a look at it. But yeah, we're going to take a look at
for
some...
those who don't know, is a developer.
So the featured matches of the day are a great way to learn as well. Because the featured do the featured matches follow the same kind of deal as the match of the day as much as possible, Robin, or?
The match of the day is determined after the day is complete.
Yeah.
So that only happens... so that takes a couple of things into account, whether the match was close, whether it was high level, whether there was a good connection, all that sort of stuff. And then there are the featured matches, which are a couple of games that the matchmaking system is pretty sure about that are going to be cool. But if you watch a live featured match, that game is still ongoing, like the one we're watching right now.
Yeah.
This is actually a live game. And I guess watching a live game is a really good way to get some insight into high level play.
Yeah, and we're only like 20 seconds behind, so this is all like happening pretty much right now. But yeah, it seems like this kind of feature would be very helpful for newer players.
Yeah. Like when you don't know build yet, what to build, it's very handy to just go into featured games, look at what items are people buying. Like you can see the Lone Star, he's buying dynamite upgrades and attack speed on his gun to reset his dynamites. And
Would be a really good move, yeah.
Hey, that's a nice build I want to try out.
Yeah, I've tried it before, and honestly, I wasn't a huge fan. But for people that are really good at landing their left clicks and are able to brawl, like Dit4 just did, you can do a lot of damage very, very quickly. Now, this Voltar on the blue team has gone for a very left-click heavy kind of build as well. It seems to be working out for him, getting a double kill.
This Voltar is actually a monster.
Wipeout.
Wow. Okay.
So this is what I said before about how I sometimes just get killed by Voltar. You don't see it, but Voltar actually has a damage aura. Because he has drones that shoot people around him, and he can explode them, and but he doesn't have that far range. But as soon as you get near to Voltar, suddenly everything he has starts hitting you, and it's very easy to underestimate.
If you go back about 15 seconds, there's actually a nice bullpen.
Let's see, is this backwards or is that forwards? That is backwards 3 seconds. Okay. So,
we'll focus on the Lone Star.
Yeah, well, as soon as he drops. There we go. But yeah, like Voltar is one of those characters that it seems like he's being built two different ways this game. There's a left-click centric build, and there's also this build that goes into Bombshell, which is a really good deterrent type of thing. But that can wait for a second. Out comes a good bull. That kept the frog close for a good long time, so that was pretty sweet. But I'm not sure if that's the one that Robin was talking about.
Yeah, I thought he was hitting it into the turret, but...
He almost did.
Oh, it did. Like, the froggy is a froggy. And that's the only reason he got out. But if there would have been anybody else...
Okay, so what just happened there is Yuri got hold of the middle area. And I think that's one thing that you can keep track of if you want to get better at the game is...
notice... Oh, there's a Yuri in the middle. I probably should not use the jump pad.
Yeah, if there's a Yuri on the map...
die by those mines.
Yeah, somebody's gonna die.
If we're lucky, Ulip is gonna jump up in a second.
No, he's busy pushing. Like Ulip left alone to push.
Ulip, jump up.
He's not going to. There's no way.
He might.
Well, there's also where communication comes in, right? I mean,
if you know there's mines, you can type in chat mines in middle or.
Yeah, mines mid or Yuri mid. If somebody's paying attention, then that means that they won't go up. Hopefully, I remember that there was one game that I was playing, and it was on a stream I was doing, and I forget exactly who it was, but I'm pretty sure it was like Durple or Yuri again in like the middle of the map, and I told my team to like be careful. 2 seconds later, teammate ends up dying because of thing that I told them to be careful about. So like you can't always like get what you want, but it's worth at least trying to say, hey, look, this thing's happening.
Also, when a clunk grabs the invisibility on
Aguilon
clunk invis or just clunk even,
or just anybody on Aguilon. If you see somebody who's grabbed the invis and they're not on your team, like let your team know who it is. It can be the difference between living and dying if you're careful about it. Frog dash going in, put out a decent amount of damage, but then die.
This is why Froggy is hard, because if you're anticipating wrongly what you can do, and then just go in. Then you just die, you get punished. Yeah,
so what I'm hoping to do is to see this frog do that. He's just come back. He's got some upgrades that are like mostly mobility centric. He's got like shoes, turbo tape. He's got dash damage, so he's going for a bursty kind of build.
He got bursty build. And turbo tape is some nice movements. This build's pretty alright. I like this build.
Yeah, me too. I would recommend it. I would personally get the heal up clocks, but why would the frog want to take that damage there? But I guess it doesn't really matter, does it? So at this point, Ulip's gazed somebody.
So he has
and Froggy's going to go in. He misses his dash, gets dynamited, gets healed up instead, so he's perfectly healthy again.
And Voltar here, you can see how Voltar is a nice straightforward support, just raw healing.
Mm-hmm. And the raw healing seems to be helping. The dynamite comes out, he goes in, he dashes, this time he lands it, he gets bowled, takes a decent amount of damage. and then he eats 2 of the dynamite sticks, so he's a little bit hurt. I'm beginning to wonder if I went forward in time or backward in time. I thought I went backward.
I think it's here soonish.
Yeah.
What do you think of the compositions, by the way?
Good question. So the red team feels like
Okay, so they both have sort of double support.
yeah. Blue team's got a double support with an emphasis on like left click brawly type of stuff.
Yeah.
Feels like the red team to me is a bit more heavily focused on push and establishing a space to call their own. Wow, those dinosaurs are doing all kinds of work. Slippy ends up going down here, and so does here we go. So Frog ends up dashing, tries to get out, is going to succeed this time. Yeah, I did end up going forward in time, but like his 2 teammates ended up dying instead, which kind of stinks. But like Frog has a hard time staying in a fight sometimes because of his lack of HP.
And now it's 2-on-1, right?
Yeah. So he can't really go in. Oh wow.
Oh, this is pretty nice.
The bubble though, that bubble saved the Yuri. So the red team to me it feels like is trying to focus on staying in an area and then keeping it because they have access to not 1 but 2 different people that can heal on command. Whereas Ulip requires droids to kill to do that.
Yeah.
And most of the time he wants to pick up his own health packs anyway to work with Quark
Ulip
microscope.
has a bit more lockdown, which is nice for the Froggies to follow up on.
Although that's not the build he's going for. He's decided to go for a dinosaur reduction build, so he's got his dinos out as often as possible. Wow! Okay, that was a trade. And Ulip ended up going down upstairs. The Lone Star picking up with the blaster.
Froggies alone again. Almost
Right,
got
let's go ahead and
dynamites.
get back to this. But the compositions are fine, but I think that the red composition's a little bit passive and relies on the other team making mistakes, which is maybe not a weakness, but it's a very risky play to ask that your opponent make the mistakes. Oh wow, this Frog is having a hard time keeping up, but he wants to get the kill. He's being very careful though, like dodging the mine there was definitely necessary, and that's where platforming skill comes in a big way.
Yeah.
A lot of
the platformers, you're gonna be fine.
Oh yeah, no. If you're good at platformers, then Awesomenauts ends up being a lot better for you, no matter who you pick up. There are some characters that are harder to move with than others, though. Like Voltar on Aegeon is a pain, right?
Yeah, but that's a pain because all the jumps are.
Oh my gosh.
Actually, you can only just about make all the jumps.
Yeah.
So if you jump a bit too late or you hold your jump a bit too short, you're not gonna make a lot of jumps. So you have to jump again.
Yeah.
It just takes a lot of time.
Yeah, for sure. As the builds have evolved, you were right about the Lone Star. He ended up going for the attack speed pretty soon after, and is going for the fastest gun in the West build. He's gone in with a really good bull, but it didn't quite work out the way he had planned. Robin Neku's getting chased down by everybody, but seems to have squeaked his way out of that one. Lone Star does get a kill, but he goes down for it. Nice.
The follow-up dish. That's nice.
Although he ate a mine for...
Froggy just keeps ignoring mines and just running through them.
Except for when it matters, apparently. He was jumping around that one mine very, very carefully before, but... Oh, wow. Excellent dinos into Gaze there. And because the dinosaurs jump, they actually ended up getting the Voltar, who got a little bit complacent.
So, guys, when you see dinos come out, run the other way.
Yeah, I think that Ulip's big weakness in competitive is that he's got this massive wind-up to his dinosaurs into Gaze combo. And so long as you know what you're doing, like, just avoid the dinosaurs, and then the dinosaurs don't do anything for a little while. The issue here, though, is that Ulip, is relying on his dinosaurs entirely. He has no other options as far as his damage is concerned quite yet, so it's going to take a while. Blue Voltar has not only gone into left-click damage as much as possible, he's also gone into Voltar, the carrier build. So he's got as many drones as possible, doing as much attack damage as possible, like he carries from StarCraft.
Okay, they have 2 sort of support characters, so I'm not going to need to do that much healing, so I'm just going to build damage.
Yeah, I mean, the red Voltar doubled down on his damage even harder because he went for Bombshell first, which is a ton of extra burst. As far as mines go, 600 damage is nothing to sneeze at.
What does it do?
So what that upgrade does, Robin, is that when you use your heal bot like that, if it survives till the end, it lays a bomb where the heal bot used to be that lasts generally until the next heal bot comes out. And that mine does a ton of damage. But again, this only works under a couple of circumstances. The first circumstance is, oh goodness, that was a really good gaze. The first circumstance is that the heal bot has to survive, which means that you want to pick up an upgrade to keep your heal bot intact or you have to time your heal bot really, really well to keep it alive long enough to drop the bomb.
Yep.
The other thing is that, again, it relies on the opponent making the mistake of jumping into the one bomb on the map. It's not like Yuri who can spam them all over the place. Yeah,
But
there's just the one.
If you keep them at like strategic points, like in the middle, it's fine.
I find that it's a really good upgrade, but it needs a little bit of help to get going. So somebody like a Leon would be a good pickup as well.
Yeah.
Yep, Leon
If
or
you
Bull.
ever want to play a old classic combo with a friend, get a Yuri, get a Leon, put mines somewhere, put Leon invisible on the mines, wait for someone to get close, then tongue them on the mines.
Oh, that was a Team Awful
That's,
favorite. Remember
that's
Nico
really
and
fun.
Cole would end up doing
Yeah,
that a lot
yeah.
of the time, and Sam would play the Vinny to follow up sort of deal.
That's an old classic. If you ever want to have fun, guys, try that.
Yeah, and it works a lot more often than it should.
Yeah, especially for people who've never seen it before.
Yeah, people who like have never seen it before, or people who aren't like being careful to that kind of stuff. How would you deal with a comp like that, by the way? Because like in lower leagues, that's gonna pop up. People are gonna figure out those one-hit combo pumps, and
the mines. If you want to have more mines on one spot, Yuri has to stay there.
Yeah,
and that means they're not mines somewhere else.
right.
So you just go to the place where there are no mines and start
Very nice.
pushing there.
Oh, team wipe.
Wipeout.
Very, very good wipeout on top of that. Yeah, the
now
Vault are doing a lot
now
of
they
work.
want to push.
Yeah.
Momentum, push.
They want to push. The Yuri's
This is also something that Volter does.
Is it okay for them to ignore droids at this point?
Yeah. You can
Go
just
ahead.
run to the turret, ignore the droids. But this is also something why I like Volter in lower leagues, is because Volter somehow promotes teamwork. Because you're like, hey, there's a Volter there, he can heal me, I'm gonna stay near the Volter. Sometimes teams with a Volter just wins because they have a Volter, they stay together.
it like
and
tricks
other-
the team to stay
yeah,
together.
It like tricks them into playing well and staying together.
So in this particular situation, the red
really
team is
like.
going really hard on this blue base. Oh wow! The bomb from the heal bot actually made it out. It's a 2-for-2 exchange right now. Yuri's gonna end up teleporting home by flying up there, but
It's still got core damage.
yeah, there's core damage on
There's
both
a
sides
super
of the things.
droid at their core, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So that's I think what Robin was getting at that point was like, well, there's like droids on like they're threatening the core. Do you go back and defend, or do you go and be offensive in that case?
You gotta deal with a super droid if there's a super droid. Normal droids I wouldn't defend for if you can push with 3 people.
Fair enough. In this particular case, are there any upgrades that you would have liked to have seen out of certain not like that you would have seen different? Because I'm looking at the ULIP and I've got a couple of comments, but
I don't really know the unit builds, so I don't know.
oh wow, really good gaze from super far away. The Voltar knockback on the heal bot to push him back into the dinosaurs was a very key way to get that kill. Now things are looking really good for this blue team. The blue team are opting to go for this bottom turret instead of going for the core. Good choice, and
I like these builds. I just think all of the players are really late on pills.
yeah, that's one thing.
That's the thing I'm noticing mostly.
But
Like somewhere around the 12-minute mark, you probably want to think of starting.
good
to pick up-
gaze, lots of damage coming out of the Voltar is going to help secure the kill, and now they're going in on this base. Do you think that they need to be? Oh, the dinosaurs are still chasing this Lone Star. There's a lot
just
going
push
on.
At this point, Lone Star needs to heal up. You can push.
Oh
you
my
have,
gosh.
Voltage healing to back you up.
The dinosaur hitbox still like kind of hitting people despite the fact that they're behind a building. Frog Dash comes out. Lone Star's trying to land a dynamite. It's not quite enough to depress Potato coming in from above with the dinosaurs.
Yep.
It's enough to pick up the
it's
kill.
probably game.
Yeah, that's definitely game. Very well played.
Those were some staggered deaths at the end as well.
Yeah, lots of stagger deaths on the red team there.
Yep.
Lots and lots and lots of them.
That's what we talked about before. If you're alone, don't die alone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you die in a team fight, then it's not a bad death. If you die while you're alone out on the map, it's usually bad death.
Yeah, that's a bad time to die. The one thing I would have said here that was strange was the like the Eulip build just going for the lifesteal, but that's because I haven't really ever had the chance to use it. How often would you recommend experimenting with different builds if you're trying to like improve?
Well, when you're learning a character, I would recommend playing a different build every game, then see what works, pick it up every game. Experimenting is good.
Would you recommend going to like a bot match and just like trying out a bunch of silly builds to see if there's any upgrades that you actually like the look of, or?
Yeah, you could try to get a feel for what upgrades do.
Okay.
But if you really want to test them, you gotta try them versus live players.
Okay, so we're going to, we're like, okay, so is this a good game for us? Maybe. Ooh, this one looks interesting. Yeah, we can get into this one. So this game looks interesting to me just because there's a lot of very aggressive characters, and very little in terms of passive, like ability to play passively here.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
on
it just started too. That's
yeah,
pretty
it
cool.
literally just
That's
started,
pretty
so
cool.
like perfect timing, honestly. But as far as competitive like meta characters go, Na is on the list, Ix is on the list,
And
Coco
Na
is always on
actually
the
very
list.
good right now. If you want to pick up a good character, Na's actually pretty solid at the moment.
Yeah, and why is that?
Because his spit does a lot of damage, and it's very easy to hit. And splits, if you buy that split upgrade, it's just he does a lot of damage that's very easy to hit.
He also like right now one of the things that makes him very scary is the fact that he can hit for like 400 damage on a weakling placement.
Yep.
Thanks to the wild growth, which is a very cheap upgrade at only 165 solar per instance of
And they
it.
reduced the self stun on it too. So before, when you place a weakling, you used to need to stand still for a certain amount of time,
Yeah,
and that, well, you still do, but the
Nice.
duration is
very
way
good
shorter.
jumps out of nibs. Sorry, continue.
I think I was done.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. But I like as far as Na goes, like getting like the ability to do a decent amount of dot damage is one thing, but I think one of the things that makes him really good is the overcharged metabolism combined with his weakling placement
Wait,
damage.
What does the overcharge
So-
metabolism do?
I'm glad that you asked. It's a spit upgrade that if the projectile directly hits before it hits the ground,
Hmm.
it amplifies the damage that the target
Oh,
takes by
so
15%
yeah,
for 4 seconds.
So the amplify. I usually just call it amplify.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's really good because it also works on the spit damage the damage over time that happens right
Yeah.
away. So it does 50% more to the damage that you're doing and that the enemy is doing,
In this particular
or
case,
your allies are doing. The guy that gets hits his enemy.
interesting pickup here by the Coco. She's gone for lifesteal and slow hands instead of going for lightning ball early. What? Okay, there's one thing that's always kind of been a discussion in my head. How important is it to go burst over going for like more DPS-y kind of builds? And would you recommend one more than the other most of the time, or is there a situation? Is it like a situational thing where you need to know what's best in a given
Yeah,
moment?
it's really situational. Like, you gotta look at what the other characters are weak at, what you can pick. If there's a lot of regen in the game, DPS might not work.
Right.
Or you might be able to get enough DPS that even though they have regen, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It really depends. It's a really hard question to ask without looking at the situation.
Yeah.
But we got a situation right here, so we could look at that. Like, Na actually does a lot of DPS, and if a lot of poke, like in that way he's an harasser. You
Yeah.
probably want to pick up regen. If I look at the red team, no one picked up regen, even though they're playing against a Na.
Yeah.
And they picked up piggy bank, which I don't really like. You're playing against a Na, which kind of makes you forced to pick up regen, and you're already spending one of your 3 utility slots on a piggy bank.
Yeah.
Instead
So when
of
should you get it?
Sorry?
When should you get piggy bank?
When should you get piggy bank?
Yeah, that's
when
that's
you-
actually a really tough question.
I myself, I don't really pick piggy bank up anymore. When I did a few scrims with, well, not really scrims, but high level games with Edster and stuff a while back.
Yeah.
And we actually only picked up piggy bank when we were losing.
So
to
why
catch
would you
back
pick a
up.
piggy bank when you're losing then?
Because it's instant solar, and we were like, if this continues, we're losing anyway. We need to get a good fight, so we all just picked up piggy bank to help get us that one good fight.
Was it necessary for you all to pick up piggy bank at the same time to really make that one work, or?
I think so. After that, we had a good fight too, but it wasn't enough. But I think if we didn't pick up piggy bank at that point, it would have gone worse. But
Fair
I
enough.
don't like picking up piggy bank at the start of the game. You lock down a utility slot. What if the game goes to the end?
You end up being a bit weaker
Yeah.
for it because you don't have access
And
to another utility
Here, like,
item.
both teams did it, so they're on equal footing again. They basically got an agreement. Oh, we're all gonna play with just 2 utility slots.
Like because of the piggy
And
banks
that's
coming
that's
out.
a good thing for the Na, because that means regen will cost a lot more because it's
Yeah.
gonna cost one of your 2 remaining utility slots.
Which means that you have to choose between like baby curry mammoth, pills,
Yeah, and
boots, and then like depending on which character you're playing as, you have access to like different forms of regen, like solar crab burgers and wraithstone, or which are a bit more situational, or stuff that's really important, like Starstorm statue, which is arguably mandatory on those knots, or overdrive gear, which is very very helpful. Although again, up to playstyle, honestly. So, you know what? Just for like a second, there are some upgrades in the utility row that are really tempting, and Piggy Bank is one of them. Because it's free and it gives you free solar. Like, why wouldn't you? But there are some other upgrades that are a lot more situational. Things that people would look at and go, "Oh, well, I never see anyone else play this."
The Coco has the regen hands though. When she has the lifesteal on her other attack, that helps a bit. But it doesn't help if you got poked and you need to run away.
Yeah,
It doesn't help
exactly.
you get back up. So I would say that it works at the wrong time.
How about something like Wraithstone? That's an upgrade that is
Wraithstone is a really good upgrade, especially if you have a character that doesn't have that much life, I think.
yeah. So like, well, that's who it usually shows up on. Somebody like Raylan, Frog,
Yeah.
Senya. All of those knots have Wraithstone.
Yeah, and then you can just run into the jungle, grab one creep, and basically it works as a health pack, and you have enough life to go back in and fight again. You can use that instead of regen, I think. That's perfectly fine. And it's better in the late game than regen a lot of the
that's
time
true.
because a fight can be going on. You can get solo that you actually need to go back to base,
Yeah.
but because you have Ragestone, you can run into the jungle really quick, get to creeps, and jump back into the fight.
Would you say that something like Wraithstone's a bit more map dependent? Like because
Yeah,
between them and
it's
Baby,
really strong on Ribbit and Aguilon. It's less strong, I think. Well, on Saron it's pretty strong.
it's on Saron, it's okay, but it's riskier, I think.
Yeah.
Because there's only 4 creeps,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
2 of them are on the other side of the map.
Yeah.
Which is very easy to get ganked on.
Ragestone is also something that probably only one guy on your team should pick up.
Yeah, because otherwise you're splitting the creeps pretty hard. How about Solar Crab Burgers? Because on certain knots, like Solar Crab Burgers pops up, and you're like, this looks like it's a really good idea.
I like it on Vinny and Ayla mostly, I think.
Ayla no longer has it.
Ayla no longer has it.
I
That
think.
shows-
Or does she?
I'm not sure.
I think she does. Actually, no, wait. She does. She does have Solar Crab Burgers. So that at that point, it's more of a like, do you want to get Solar Crab Burgers or do you want to get regen?
What does it do?
So Solar Crab Burgers is an item that every time you pick up solar of any kind, other than when you get a kill, I think now, the solar gives you HP.
Okay, so this was a very, like, low-level way fights go. People just keep standing next to each other, and they keep hitting each other until one dies. That's what Leon is very good at.
Leon's really good at, like, if a good Leon is playing, they are moving around just as much as everybody else, but they're still landing all their attacks. I think that at this point, it might be game, especially if Coco and
you
Nibs
can
go
just
down.
see what I talked about. Like, the red team is low every time because they have no regen, they get hit by Spit, and then they have to go back.
Yeah, and Spit actually has upgrades on it, both the Spit
this game
and
would
damage.
have gone on way longer if the red team just picked up regen.
Do you think that would have helped them?
Yeah, a lot. I think the whole reason they're losing is because they don't have any regen in their team.
Ooh, really good precision shot there by the Rocco. And like that's I think that this this Coco's absolutely done, and that was more high level play out of the Gnaw, like being able to predict when the Coco was going to jump and stay on top of it. Like he was able to hold down left click and still hit every single time, which is very good. But
I think
that's game.
Gnaw is a bit higher ranked than the others in this game, if I'm looking at it.
You are correct. I bumped it to Tommy once or twice myself.
Okay, good.
So that's going to be that game pretty much guaranteed unless Nibs gets like a triple kill here. And it is possible for Nibs to get a triple kill out of all the characters, but she's a tough one.
Game. That was good to show.
Yeah, that was all right.
Learn about regen. That's good.
Yeah, and I like the situation, situational nature of it, honestly. Okay, this is...
Do we have time for another game?
If you want.
Or should we maybe we should do chat questions, I don't know.
There aren't that many right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can maybe do it for another 5 minutes and we'll close down and turn it over
Okay, sure.
to...
Okay,
the
so this one is a very meta-heavy game. Out of all the games we've seen, like, these picks are very high-level picks as far as right now the competitive scene is concerned. On the red team, you've got Penny, you've got Coco, and you've got Sentry. On the blue team, you've got Genji, Ted, and another Penny.
Yeah.
Now,
This is gonna be a nice game.
Yeah,
think.
for sure. And a lot of these players are
Okay,
players
pounce,
that I
pounce,
know.
pounce.
Pounce? Yeah, there was a pounce, but
Yeah,
down
that's enough.
down goes the penny in this particular case.
Yeah.
But
Okay,
like,
so the blue team came a bit later than the red team. If they were there at the same time, I think the fight could come very different.
yeah,
But
absolutely.
you can see Genji set up with the cocoon, and then the penny got in position to pounce the enemy into the turret.
Yeah,
We're missing help bars for some
I
reason.
got rid.
Oh,
I
we
put
got
them back. It's all
we
good.
got them back.
But Sentry is a really good character.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, yeah, you can go in with a shield, then move forward, and then do a black hole to lock somebody down and have his team follow up.
So what does so the black hole is like this is a big circle that sucks everybody into the center, and the closer you are to the center, the harder it is to escape.
Yep.
So the reason why that's really good is for team fight potential mostly. And when you've got a sentry on your team, your best bet is to try to make sure that your sentry is landing as much as possible, in terms of in terms of like team fight big things. So pulse on Penny, or in this case, Coco's lightning ball is the reason why they're making this work. But like this team fighty kind of comp is going up against Genji, Ted, and Penny again. But in this case, it's a very gank heavy comp. So ganking is when you have multiple people on your team comboing together to get rid of one person specifically to create a short-term player advantage. In short, you're grouping up to kill
basically,
somebody.
you're
Yeah.
trying to stagger that by.
Yeah,
Uh,
you're forcing out stagger deaths rather than getting everybody all at once.
Yep.
How important is it to get gank kills in this game? Like when you
pretty,
like,
pretty important, I would say.
Okay.
Like, it allows you to get the map advantage. And
or do you think that's more of a comp thing? Do you, like that the comp can
Well,
work or can not work as well?
your comp gotta be able to make them. Like if you look at the Sentry Penny combo
Yeah.
that they have, there's two pennies on both sides.
Mhm.
Like I think both teams can kind of do it. The push is a bit heavier on the blue team, and the ability to set up team fights is a bit better for the red team.
Yep.
Because they have the knockback, they have the Sentry Black Hole, and then Penny to follow up. They're gonna look for Penny to follow up mostly. Try and knock them back, have Penny pounce them back even more,
Yeah.
or do a Black Hole and have Penny come after it with a pulse, and then just start fighting. That's that basically.
I see a lot of people teleporting back all the time. Is that specific to a high level player, or is that more of a map thing?
I think both. Like the creeps are done every time, and when people are low, they just go back to base.
On top of that, this is a map that's a little bit tough to get heals on. Like the health packs are
Yeah.
very
Like
far away from each
If you're
other.
the character that is in the top lane all the time, you have access to a quite lot of regen, but only when you're like sort of winning your lane.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh wow, really good black hole's going to do enough
Yeah.
damage to help set up a lightning ball that was
Black
extremely
Hole
on
got
point.
4 kills already.
Yeah, black hole's very very strong as far as abilities go. And again, it's one of those things that you have to count the cooldown and be very very careful. Make sure that you don't get caught out by it. That penny is very risky.
Like people here are just deciding when they're low life, I might as well go back to base because if I stick around, I'm gonna die anyway, and I can't do much apart from standing behind my turret.
With that said, though, they're not teleporting back if
And
if
this
something's
game is so
undefended either.
aggressive. I kind of like it.
Yeah, no, they've gotten almost 2 kills every minute, which is quite a lot for any game, honestly. But in this particular, it's interesting to see here that the pennies are, despite the fact that they are like the same character, they are building very differently. On the red team, it's a little bit safer going for.
It's not that different. I think they both got the Stormstorm statue damage.
Yep, they do.
And then they top it off with a bit of healing.
Yep.
One form in Medican and the other in Snack Patch.
Yep. So it is. So Snack Badgers, every time she uses a combo point, she gets
Yeah.
more HP back.
So
Whereas
you
Medican
have
is just
4 combo points. If you use an ability while having 4 combo points, it heals more than when you do an ability when you have 1 combo point. And that's really good for fights. And regen is better for staying around the map.
Yeah, and despite the builds being relatively the same, it feels like they're playing like somewhat differently. Whereas with the
I
blue
think
ones,
that's because of the teammates. Because the red penny wants to follow up on Sentry, and
Right.
the blue penny wants to follow up on Genji, and that's just a different way of following up.
yeah, okay, and like in both of these cases, at least in the red team, they actually have they also have a scary thing that Robin's pointing out right now is that both Penny and Coco can hit through the turrets. So because they can hit through turrets, how do you defend against the red team right now? Because on top of that, Black Hole also goes through turrets.
Yeah. So you just actually stand at your turret and defend, but when you see a spell coming, then you back off.
So you have to be hyper aware.
So you need to stand at the back of your turret and be ready to go back. Basically, whenever you see an animation come out.
Right. Now the animation
Scarecrow's probably dead.
No, the pounce is going to keep Scarecrow alive, but the animation on some of the bigger, scarier abilities, like Black Hole, there's a large windup, and you can see when Sentry has a charge. On top of that, the projectile itself is slow moving.
When Sentry has a charge, you can just keep in mind that the Black Hole is going to come out soon.
Mm-hmm. Especially because the longer they hold on to a charge, the weaker
less
it
damage
gets.
it's going to do because it depletes the energy on it.
Now, other knots, though, like Penny, they don't really have much of a tell. Like for Pounce, for instance, just Pounce happens, you're likely to get hit by it if the Penny knows what they're doing. But Pulse, on the other hand, has a bit of a...
The Pulse you can see coming by the Penny running towards you suddenly.
Yeah. Or using the vertical advantage that we talked about in the first game that we saw.
That's why you can't see Penny coming. If they're falling on top of you and they pulse you, while falling on top of you, they're coming in so quick that you don't have time to react, usually.
Oh, and this might be a dead moment for Sentry. Yep. Penny getting a really good kill there.
Okay, so I really liked this pounce, because if she would have pounced straight into the Sentry, she would have actually knocked the Sentry to safety.
Yeah.
But because she jumped up twice before she pounced into him, she actually pounced him into the ground.
Which means that he
stays in the same position mostly.
Okay.
So she could follow up and run after him and attack him even more.
Now, Genji on the blue team right now is not the only Genji to be playing. Let's be bluntly honest. Genji pops up in a lot of competitive play right now.
Yeah.
So chat's asking, what does Cocoon do for a team? So why is Genji's Cocoon so important? And what does Shield do for a team?
Cocoon does two things. It can set up fights, or it can take somebody out of a fight. So fight's happening, you do a Cocoon, that guy's out of the fight for a few seconds. But you gotta watch out with that, because you might also save an enemy from the damage they take.
Yeah.
So it's usually more reliable to set fights up with.
Okay.
But Genji does really good AA damage, so
he's a bit of a brawler like that, isn't he?
Yeah, he can hit a lot of people during a fight. So you kind of want long fights with Genji.
Okay.
You kind of want to drag out long fights and just keep fighting.
And then Shield on Genji is particularly important because of how it can completely change how a fight feels, right?
Yeah. You can wait with popping Shield till everybody on your team took about half their life of damage. And you can pop the Shield, heal back up if you bought heal already, and then start shielding your teammates from getting killed.
Right on.
If you don't spam it right away, then they have to commit to killing someone first. And once they commit to killing that person, you can pop the shield, make them have more life, effective life, basically.
Yeah.
Making it harder for them to kill and make the risk greater for the enemy team to overextend or overcommit on a kill, which they can't get because the shield is now out.
On top of that, Shield has some pretty keen upgrades on it. I mean, Bronco Yeast, for instance, is very, very good against certain knots like Ayla, Nibs, Ulip.
So Bronco Yeast is an upgrade that does a flat reduction on all damage. So a lot of abilities that do a lot of damage in very small numbers. I'm thinking Tornado,
Fire Breath, Dinosaurs,
Ayla, Dinosaurs. If you buy Bronco Yeast into those, they do almost nothing.
It also means that the turrets do almost no damage as well.
Yes,
so you can really tank the turrets yourself. Not to mention that Shield, like quickly mentioned earlier, has a heal, but it also has a speed up upgrade available for it. And one of the biggest upgrades to pop out on it, this looks like this is game. One of the biggest upgrades on it, honestly, is Spiritual Cooking, which increases the max HP. It's really good with double squishy teams.
That's just a straight up buff for everybody on your team.
Wow.
Yeah, good job, Ted. And he's not quite done yet. Almost landed the airstrike. And he's still chasing with Tetrisville as well. It's poking really annoyingly well. Like this dude is having a hard time getting away.
I wonder if the sentry dies.
No, Sentry does live, but with only like 2 bars of HP
If
left.
Ted wouldn't have gone up after it, then it would have been fine.
Well, unless the Sentry just stayed up there. That was an option because they have that top turret down as well. But as far as Genji goes, I think he's just really good, depending on how you build him, in almost every single team. And a good player can make a lot of plays with him. It's the equivalent of having some of the strongest CC in the game, so crowd control in the game, which means that you're determining what a person's able to do and when, coupled with the ability to let people attack you or not.
Like here, the Genji abilities didn't do that much because they used Cocoon when he had no follow-up, and then they used the shield right away when the fight wasn't happening.
But in this
so
case,
after that, the red team could have just gone in for free if they wanted, but
instead,
because they didn't know that that happened, they didn't go in, went in later when the cooldowns were back, so they still got...
and Genji almost completely turned that
What's
fight
the
around
fight?
too. The Cocoon ended up helping keep
Yeah,
him alive. The
like
shield...
He got shield back right in time, he got the Cocoon back to take somebody out of the fight for a while. That's the power of Genji.
Yeah, so like that explains why Genji is picked up these days. He's just really good in almost every situation if you're good with
Yeah,
him.
he's a really good teamfight support.
I think that one of the... very, very good kill there. Excellent turnaround gank by the team coming in to help out at the last second. One of the... I think the key things to keep in mind with Genji is just...
Okay.
You have to... I think the hard part about him anyway is his mobility. Like learning how to move with the guy is
Okay,
tough as all get out.
So the red team, they got very far. After that, because they got very far, they were just thinking we're gonna brute force into their base, and then they started to stagger that. So they should just like wait, regroup, make all the droid waves go the blue direction again, and then try to commit again instead of trying to go for fights while they don't have droids. Not everybody in the same spot.
How important is it to keep droids around for fights?
Not for fights, but you want to have them around for when you win a fight, so you can follow up on the fights with the droids to push. Because if you don't have life from the fight, you can't tank towers, but the droids can for you.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, if you're low HP, then this it's an insurance.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's more like an investment. Like, you invest into the droids being on their side, and then when you win a team fight, you can like cash in by pushing.
So the Coco's build this game is different than the last one by quite a lot, honestly. Went into cooldown ball, followed by damage, regen, and then went into
I think this
superconductor.
is a way better build.
Yeah, I think so too. Why do you think so?
It's a lot of knockback, like
Oh,
to keep
really
the
good.
penny away, I'm guessing.
Yep.
Well, the cooldown doesn't go for the increased range, but basically for more.
Yeah.
And then it goes for damage, more damage on auto attack. Basically, damage upgrades are good. It's basically.
I think that's a pretty good philosophy to have. If you're ever at a loss as to what upgrades you should pick up, get damage.
Yeah.
Oh, that almost works. The
if
stun
you're in
pack.
a position where you don't need an ability, yeah.
Once again, continues.
I don't know why
Yeah.
Blue isn't pushing that hard yet though, because they kept getting a lot of kills lately, but they weren't pushing.
And they're tied up.
Like there, they should have just went bottom instead of go back up to clear that.
Yeah, I mean, with 2 of them still alive, it's like a 2v2 at the moment.
Is
so
the Ted a bot or
no, Ted's incognito. Ted's a real person.
That's the
but
incognito.
yeah,
icon.
so incognito means that you'll
I was super
pop up in
confused.
replays as the character name instead of your actual name.
Yeah,
So if
yeah.
you want to not be embarrassed, at any point, not that you should ever feel embarrassed, but if you feel like you're playing badly and you don't want to have your name up there, you can turn on incognito mode in the menu for watching games. You can also turn it on in your options menu. So that's not a big deal. Now,
Penny's suddenly ranged.
yeah, Penny is suddenly ranged. So the red Penny is suddenly ranged because she's picked up an upgrade called Spider-Bird
She
Collector's
waited
Badge.
very late with it.
Yeah, it's not... Depending on what kind of build you're going for, it's something you pick up earlier or later, I've seen so far. And I prefer picking it up earlier personally, just because I'm bad at doing aggressive Penny. But it's still a good upgrade to pick up a good chunk of the time. And we'll end up seeing, maybe
this is
why it's
scary,
important here.
this is scary.
Oh, she's done.
Yeah.
She's very, very done. A very good cocoon. Ted timed his airstrike and waited for the cocoon. That was good team play, honestly. And good good presence of mind to not use your airstrike too early. A good pulse first out of the blue penny here, and that's important in this case because the damage it deals is, although it's very nice, the amplified damage that's on base pulse as well as the silence means that penny can continue to follow up with some brawl and then finish off with
I
the
don't
pounce
get
instead.
how the blue team is not getting in push though. They've been winning fights left and right lately, but they're somehow not getting killed, not getting pushed.
They usually end up getting killed in return, or they don't have the upgrades necessarily. Like in this case, they're bruised, so they have to head back home. But Doppler.
Yeah, but also when they get killed, they don't move forward enough. I feel like.
Yeah, that's fair. So why do you think that the Spiderbird Collector Badge, like the range on Penny, is something you want to pick up earlier?
Gun penny, you mean?
Yeah, Gun Penny.
It's just really good for pushing. I think. It's,
Yeah.
Very easy. Like you might not have it in fights all the time, because you're gonna use your spells and then you have to go melee a bit. But after the fight is over, it's way easier to hit turrets with it.
And he's doing a
droids.
lot of damage with it too because of the extra charge upgrade on it, and the upgrade that gives you extra damage for every charge that you have has been a part of his kit since mid-game, honestly. So, yeah, like, I think the Gun Penny's really, really
Although,
disgusting at push,
to
honestly.
be fair,
Yeah?
he went for mostly pulse upgrades, which
Yeah.
is just to follow up on the sentry. So it's probably fine picking it up so late now that I think about it.
Yeah, that makes sense. So they went for more of a team fighty type of deal instead. Whereas the other Penny has gone for the Death Lance. It's been a long time since I've seen this. I think it's if you land a pulse, you get an extra
Extra
ranged attack.
Well, they both have it, by the way.
Yeah, they both do have it. In fact,
It's
Chicken
just good
Lunchbox
for
as well.
burst. If you know you're gonna hit your pulses anyway, and you're not gonna need to range, why not build more damage?
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's just
What's currently going on? Because no one really seems to commit to anything.
Yeah, at this point,
basically they don't want to die and just push, and they basically the red team basically figured out, oh, we should stop staggering deaths, and then make their composure stick together way more, and then get ready for push.
in the
So
competitive,
this is what happens for
Yeah.
a long time in high-level games sometimes. No team is able to kill each other, so they're just looking at each other for a long time, trying to catch out the one that makes a mistake first,
yeah.
trying to make a play.
So the most patient
But,
team ends up usually doing putting up a pretty
But
good job. at
the
this
blue
point,
team
but-
is like getting hold back. They're basically on the clock.
Oh
because they're
wow!
poking. Yeah, that's
Wow!
the point.
Really good black
Like,
hole.
You're basically fishing for those kind of plays when you're just.
Oh wow! Really good
pushing.
pounce. The pulse to come out immediately afterwards is going to tie it up 1-1.
Yep.
But like that still is a lot of turret push. The red team is still looking really, really good, but the fact that they got that kill means that they're still alive.
Yeah.
So
It was really well by the blue penny. Basically saved them from probably losing the game. They still lost the turret though, so red team is probably still like, all right, we lost somebody, we got the turret, this is fine.
yeah,
But it could have been way worse for blue.
absolutely. But despite that, now red team actually has an escape outlet. They can't get like they have 2 ways out of that base now, and they're both really, really effective for Penny in particular. But Ted also can use it. Coco can desperately use it, especially with the speed up on Blaze, which she does have a rank in. So that's gonna be helpful for them. I'm looking at the Ted's abilities right now, and he's gone pills pretty early. Like he got pills a while ago. It seems like he's having a hard time right now, honestly.
Yeah, he does.
What would
Well,
you-
That's like what I said earlier. Like compared to Lone Sir, he has a lot less self-defense. He's basically relying on Genji for his defense, and then he walks forward alone,
And
basically
dies.
overextends, dies.
Okay, well that
And then,
would explain why they're having a hard time. I mean, he's gone 4-8. He's not had a good time. The blue penny's been doing a good job trying to keep them together, and Genji has not been slouching
And
either. He's
then
doing
they're
his
just
best.
gonna
But
push,
yeah,
kill the droids.
the scariest part about Gun Penny is that thing does full damage to buildings. Like
Yeah.
that's probably the scariest thing for me anyway. Wow,
That's a full
that's a
wipe.
team wipe and
Yeah,
an
that's
open
game.
core. Yeah,
Very
that's
well played.
definitely game.
But to be fair, I thought it was gonna be game at around the 10 minutes mark, and then suddenly the blue team started doing very well. Probably because the red team got a bit eager to go forward alone.
Yeah.
Because they were thinking we're doing so well. Then they kept getting punished a lot. Blue team didn't manage to push off the back of it.
Yeah.
They regained their composure and managed to push out for a win.
So
that's pretty good.
when you're in a game like this, what's the value of having played a game like this? Like, what can you learn from this game?
If you look back at this game as the blue team,
Yeah.
as you've lost, you can look like, okay, at a certain point we started to come back, but with all the kills that we got, we basically did not capitalize on it by pushing, going forward.
Yeah.
They basically regained health everywhere on the map. Every time they got a kill, they cleared droid waves in both lanes instead of one and pushing it. If they look back at the game, I would recognize, okay, you weren't capitalizing on what were good kills we were doing, so we should do that next time. If I'm looking at if I would be looking back this game as a member of the red team, I was like, okay, we were playing very well. We were getting to the core in 10 minutes. Up to this point, everything was basically a perfect game.
And
then somehow we started to lose our composure because we got very eager because we were winning. So we started to go in alone. We kept dying. That gave the enemies time to come back, which they didn't use very well.
Yeah.
But still, I would just see that and like, oh, even though we're ahead, we have to keep playing like we're not ahead.
Especially with the XP system being capable of rubber banding a game fairly quickly if you're ahead and then you start dying off. Like they equalize the levels at a certain point between red and blue team, and they, like the red team got ahead too by like a couple of levels at a certain point. So that like you can't let that happen.
Okay.
If you want to get into the competitive scene,
pro tip: don't win. Richard approves. I've learned way more by losing games than by winning games, guys.
I think
losing games is not bad.
That's something that a lot of like professionals in any field have said. It's just like you learn a lot more from you like making a mistake and looking at it critically without beating yourself up, of course. But you know, if you have a mistake or you've lost something, then you can turn like that into a learning moment. It's not about, you know, oh, you screwed up. It's about, well, what can I learn from this? And I think that's probably the best tip for improving your game.
Yeah, just look back at games. And,
yeah, so it's not about lose more often. It's about lose properly, and then by that I mean like if you're going to lose,
how you could prevent it.
Exactly. Losing. If you're going to lose, then learn something from it.
Yep.
So that way you get something out of it. Now in this particular case, the red team, they did win, which is great. But like you said before, like they had a perfect game that they kind of threw out almost.
Yeah, they could have won it. They could have won it here if they wanted.
So if you're on the red team, would you have been happy with this win? I mean, probably you would have been happy with it, but like...
I would have been happy with the win by just winning, but I would be kind of sad that we didn't win faster, even though we had a really good setup.
Fair enough. And like things were starting to turn around. Like here would have been a great time for Penny and Ted to push.
The blue team kept getting kills after kills after kills. Here, another kill.
And then 3, 2, 1,
alone,
murdered. Yep. Like they keep doing well and then just kind of throwing it out.
And here Penny just stays around even though his teammates died.
Yeah. Now I know another thing that's really important to keep in mind with this game in particular over other MOBAs, like landing your abilities can make or break fights every single time, especially on certain characters like Leon and his tongue. Like landing a tongue, especially with the silence upgrade on it, is absolutely vital.
If you see your teammate Leon landing a tongue with the silence, that's basically the cue to start a fight.
Gotcha. And it's better to go win after a fight that somebody has started than to like be in the right. Like you said earlier, it's better to be in the right place
with somebody else.
Better to be in the wrong place with somebody else than in the right place by yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, with that said, is there anything else you wanted to give out there to anybody that's willing to get started? In terms of
just enjoy the game and play a lot of games. Let's play more games.
Yeah, and try to learn from the mistakes. And from me, it's worth mentioning that if you are interested in more competitive stuff and getting into scrims, finding a team, that kind of stuff, there is the Awesomenauts Scrim portal, which has a Discord and everything. It is worth checking that out. Just put that into Google, Awesomenauts Scrim portal. You'll be able to find it fairly quickly, and Discord is a completely free piece of software. So if you want to get started with that, find a team, get into some scrims, and try it out for yourself. That is a very good way of doing it. And if you're not ready to go full into a competitive scene type of deal like that quite yet, it is definitely worth your time to check out the normal, like the Awesomenauts Discord. Like just baseline, there's the Awesome Antium Discord, and there's a lot of people in there that are more than willing to give tips, to hang out and talk knots. So definitely check those out. Now, Richard, we're as we're signing off, where can people find you if they want to ask you for some more competitive advice, or
If they
want to hang out, play some video games, or recruit you to a team, or
basically add my search for my Steam account, KngRichard. There's probably just one, so just add him and ask away if you want. Or you can find me on Twitter at 3hm_KngRichard.
Are you a free agent right now?
Maybe soon. I don't know. I've been playing way too much again. If I keep it up, I might become a free agent. Not right now. Maybe in the future. I'll see.
Okay.
How about you, Wolf?
You guys can find me on Twitch. Although right now I'm not streaming every night like I usually do. I do stream every night, usually for about 2 hours at around 9 o'clock GMT, so UK time. From there, it's usually pretty easy to figure out the time difference, just because, it's on Greenwich time. Other than that, I'm on YouTube. I have a playlist that I update for Awesomenauts, and past that, you can talk to me anytime. I'm usually around either in the global chat or on Steam or on Twitter as @SlowWolf, and those are all good things. If you want to check out some more competitive stuff, the Awesomenauts social medias have a lot of stuff in terms of promoting and promulgating competitive and community content. So, Robin, where can people find out more information if they're if they want to get it from, the horse's mouth, as it were?
If you follow us on Twitter or Facebook, you'll usually get notifications whenever there's a competitive match, or whenever there's a tournament going on, or whenever some great streams are going on. You can also join the forums where most tournaments announce that the signups are available, or you can join us on the streaming show every Wednesday on this channel, where we'll also announce tournaments as they're coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, right after this show on this channel, there's going to be a show from one of the tournaments called the Awesomenauts Rumble. They're going to go over some of the best matches they've had in recent times. And if you're interested in competitive play, that is definitely what you want to check out, because they're going over regular games, they're going over some very special types of competitive matches. They're going to cover some drafts, all that stuff. So if you want to know more about competitive play, stick around.
And I know for a fact that Mr. Pello has been working in the competitive scene for the last little while. He's very prolific, so he works a lot in that kind of stuff. If anybody knows what running a tournament is like, what working with the players is like, and what the tournament scene is like, Mr. Pello's on that list. And although right now the ALWB isn't doing stuff, keep your ears peeled, because I have a feeling that they'll announce something eventually. But with that, I think we're just about done here. I know that Nicky Knots is in the chat. If you have any questions about like super competitive stuff, he's also a really good person to ask, because
check out Nicky's guide.
Yeah, Nicky's guide is top notch, very detailed.
Yep.
And it goes without saying that if somebody is the top leaderboard player, they probably know something about the game. Nicky is the top leaderboard player. He's in the #1 spot, so it's definitely worth checking out his guide and talking to him if he's in the chat, which he is. Hey, Nicky, how's it going? He also has his own Twitch stream, so check him out whenever that happens. And past that, I think we're pretty much done here. So from Ronimo HQ, this is us signing off. Thank you very much for joining us. We hope you guys enjoyed yourselves. If you did, be sure to let us know. Hit that follow button down below and check us out on all the social medias that we plugged a little bit earlier. And we'll see you guys next time. Take it easy. Laters.